conspiracy rabbit hole, but it's just kind of a bit of a wild flex, I guess you could say, for the administration to say that there's nothing to see here. Lies about the ballroom actually just being an addition to the west or to the East Wing, when then the East Wing is entirely demolished and replaced by the Death Star, so to speak. But it's just the egregious lies that are being told to the American public, and that's the part that kind of bothers me the most, right? We live in this world of lies every single day. Let me do this real quick. Things seem like they're working again. Slowly, we're coming back. Okay, hang on. Let me do this. Hold on a second. Goodbye, my love. Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Sorry, friends. So I think the thing that I really want to kind of draw everyone's attention to is just how deep this goes. Let me just bring this up real quick. I just need to kind of reinstate a couple of things. Okay, we're good. All right, sorry about that. A little distracted. We're going to talk about this a little bit today. We're going to talk about the people in the industries and the individuals that are behind the funding. For those of us who sit in this space and talk about these kinds of things every day, we see the obvious corruption. Nobody else seems to care. We care, which is why we talk about it. But first, I want to kind of revisit some of my journeys through right-wing spaces over the weekends. You guys know that I go to right-wing spaces, so you don't have to. You're welcome. And I want to give a shout out to Fish Trucker and to Politics of Matt, because they were part of this journey with me. As you know, when you go or when we see right-wing creators, I'm convinced a lot of them are literally just trolling. They'll put up the most egregious background and get people to join their panel, and they have 7 or 8 people on their panel, and they're all smelling each other's farts, and there's like 25 people or 50 people or 100 people in there, and then myself or RJ or Matt or somebody from the left goes in. Of course, their viewer count just jumps. The people that I think are the most, how do I say this, discouraging in this space, which we try to find, legitimate political discourse, are the people who claim to be just unbelievably smart. And like I always say, guys who talk about the size of their wrench have a tiny wrench. And case in point, when you claim to be an expert on everything, okay, on everything, and then you're literally proven wrong as you go, and then you go to cite a source and the source itself proves you wrong, that's where disinformation and misinformation spreads. For example, I won't give the name of the creator, but we're having a conversation, and I'm going to revisit the nuclear option with you guys this morning, because there's reporting now that the Senate Republicans might go nuclear, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. We were talking about the MAGA Republican Donald Trump Republican government shutdown, denying food stamps, denying federal employees the ability to make a paycheck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is on the backs of the Republicans. And I was explaining, as I'm wont to do, that the government shutdown is in the hands of the Republicans. And of course, to defend that, people want to claim, no, the filibuster. First of all, I despise a filibuster. I don't like it. I think it's just, I'd like to see it just gone permanently. But anyway, where we sit now is that folks are trying to say that, no, it's the Democrats. So the Republicans' entire argument has been that it's the Democrats keeping the government shut down. So we get some sound from people like MTG, right? This is what MTG had to say, and I'm going to play you some sound, and then we're going to talk about the actual details. Okay, so this is MTG. She's been doing the rounds, and there's backstory to this, and also to something that this particular host was saying over the weekend that I thought was just comical.
I see the shutdown completely different from maybe my party leadership. And I'm not putting the blame on the president. I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and Leader Thune in the Senate. We control the House. We control the Senate. We have the White House. I've been vocal saying, You can use the nuclear option in the Senate.
Oh.
This doesn't have to be a shutdown. I absolutely support the president. I campaigned for him for years. But I'm also an action person, and I want my party to solve problems.
And you say he's not getting good advice, though. You told Manu Raju. What specifically?
Well, I don't think it's good advice that a government shutdown is going to help Republicans in the midterms.
Oh.
I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's good advice that Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms. I actually think that would be very bad for midterms.
So that's MTG. And, you know, the more and more I hear MTG and I ask myself, am I agreeing with MTG? Am I agreeing with MTG? No. And I remind myself that she came out publicly, that I remind myself that she signed the discharge petition, that I remind myself of all these other things, but she's still, you know, a three-toed troglodyte who votes with Donald Trump, who would certainly service the president if she was given the opportunity, but we won't go there. I play that sound because there's more and more rumbling. Chip Roy has come out very vocally saying, why don't we just, you know, we've got this tool that is just archaic, or arcane, I should say. So he said, what was the recent statement? Hang on one second, let me find that. Chip Roy recently told the Washington Post, quote, we need to be taking a look at the 60-vote threshold. He argued that since the budget and reconciliation process can proceed on a 50-vote threshold, a continuing resolution to fund the government should likewise operate with a 50-vote standard. Meaning that Republicans in Congress know that the Senate could be using the nuclear option right now. So this person that I was in a conversation with, again, props to Politics of Matt, props to Fish Trucker for attempting to do the same thing. We were attempting to explain it, and this person was so desperate to prove his credibility. This individual claimed that they had 20 senators' phone numbers, their cell phone numbers, directly in his contact list. This person claimed that he's going to be writing legislation inside of 4 or 5 years. This person claimed that he was an expert on the inner workings of the government. And, you know, we've proved that wasn't true. I will remind folks once again that this is the MAGA Republican Donald Trump government shutdown. This is what's causing SNAP benefits to expire on November 1st. This is what's causing military families and federal workers to not be paid. This is what's causing thousands of federal employees losing their job. This is what's causing all the destruction to WIC and the destruction to the ACA subsidies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we know that. We've known that all along. This person was attempting to try to say that, I mean, just the word salad, I did not have enough balsamic vinaigrette to put on the word salad. It was absolutely crazy. And that's the worst part to me. If you are in a corner, right, and you are faced with insurmountable evidence that you've been completely wrong, you have a decision to make. You can either double down and prove just how pathetically wrong you are, or just own it and say, I was wrong. The problem is that people like that create this air of invincibility, like whatever I say goes. And then the people on his panel will double down on it as well, because somebody talks fast or lays out a list of cred, or saying at one point that he was one of the top 10 creators in the 175 million users of TikTok. And I'm like, okay. So we just let him play, and then we reminded folks what the deal is. That yes, in fact, Republicans could certainly use a nuclear option. In fact, I went back in yesterday afternoon, right? Prior to myself getting a flat tire. Anyway, I went back in yesterday afternoon because there is reporting from the Hill that came out yesterday afternoon. Okay? Republicans may go nuclear to end the shutdown. What do you know? What do you know? Despite the dangers, Republicans are openly entertaining the idea of invoking the nuclear option. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican, Missouri, quote, I'm not willing to see children in my state go hungry over some Senate procedure. Senator Rick Scott, Florida, said of ending the filibuster, if we can't get anything done, that's what the Democrats are going to force. So here we are. We've been telling you all along that absolutely the nuclear option is in the pocket of Senate Republicans. Now, if we were to look at this objectively from a political perspective, I understand why they would not do it, because it creates precedent. But the fact that they have been doubling down for a month now, saying that it's the Democrats who shut down the government, they are fucking stuck. Like I said from the beginning, if Republicans a week or so, I'll explain the nuclear option for you in just a second. If the Republicans let the government shut down for a week, for example, they could have come back and said, we are the ones that care about the working man. We are the ones that care about WIC. We are the ones that care about food stamps, et cetera, et cetera. They could have used the nuclear option then, but they put all their eggs in the negotiating basket thinking the Democrats would fold like they usually have in the past, and they didn't fold. And now here they are. Having to admit that they have been lying through their teeth to the American public about the use of the nuclear option. Plain and simple. All right, so let's revisit what it is, and then we're going to talk about a few other things, because again, just to summarize it real quick, when you have creators like that, this is how we get this misinformation, this virus that spreads. So this person was flat out wrong. They try to use what cred they have. And from my perspective, as I'm watching this, I'm like, this person has put their entire reputation in this basket, claiming to be some expert on how the inner workings go. So I challenge him. I said, okay, so are you saying that you know more about sitting senators and what the rules of the Senate are? And this person actually said yes, that they know. Some nondescript person on TikTok, who, by the way, would never even show his face. One of those hosts of a live who don't show their face live. They just sit there behind a background. My face is here every single day. So they'll literally sit there and just lie to the people in their audience, except for the hundreds of people that myself and Matt and Fish Trucker brought in, right? And then just watch it. First of all, thank you all for you there. I really appreciate the love, because it was just an interesting exercise. So by the way, we have a new mantra, and thank you, Sam. I saw this in the chat, in the mod chat. Do you want to argue or do you want to be educated? Because that's our approach now. I'm not gonna argue. There's no sense in it. I will go into other spaces, but here, this is education. This is our show. This is what we do. We're here to inform. But it's so pathetically dangerous, and that's how misinformation spreads, right? So that's right. They'll lie, they'll yell, and then they'll boot you. And it's so unnecessary. If the goal is to get accurate information, then get accurate information and share it. So here we are now. We are in a situation where Republicans are contemplating, again, using the nuclear option because they can. So I'm going to go through what the nuclear option is, just for people who don't know. Most of you probably do, but if you don't, just bear with me, because I think it's informational, and there are some examples of things that have happened in the past as far as what we have as an option for what we have as options for the nuclear option. The term nuclear option, and by the way, it's nuclear, not nuclear. That drives me fucking crazy. The term nuclear option refers to a parliamentary maneuver in the Senate by which the majority party overrides existing Senate rules or longstanding precedents, particularly the supermajority, to invoke cloture. Okay, so the filibuster itself is just a rule. It's just a simple rule in the Senate, which means that the rule can be changed. It's not constitutionally mandated, nothing like that, okay? It is what the filibuster does, let me see if I want to see if I can explain this simply, because it can be complicated. The idea is that it gives the minority party a voice, okay? I don't like the filibuster. I would be comfortable, because elections have consequences. I would be comfortable without the filibuster, because if we come to the point where situation like this happens, then it becomes finger pointing. Then I would like the finger pointing to just stop. And if there's a majority, whatever the party's majority is, that becomes a mandate from the American people. So if Republicans have the majority in the Senate, just like in the House, then they should be able to pass their own agenda with their own votes. That's how I see it. I just don't like it. I've never liked it. It's just one of these things. This mechanisms of bullshit. I just don't like it. So that's kind of what it is. What the nuclear option did is the reason they call it nuclear, not nuclear, nuclear is because it's a last-ditch effort to try to force someone's hand. So the majority party holds the power, okay? By which the majority party overrides existing Senate rules, in this case, filibuster, and then it brings you to cloture. Cloture, it's cloture, C-L-O-T-U-R-E. All cloture does is ends debate. That's it. You're done, okay? It's not undemocratic at all, Therese. You mean the filibuster? Yeah, the filibuster is undemocratic. I would agree. Okay. By raising a point of order, having the chair rule against it because of the filibuster rule, and then appealing the ruling and by a simple majority reversing the chair's decision, thereby creating a new precedent. It's used mostly to reduce or to eliminate the 60-vote threshold required to end debate, invoking cloture, on certain matters, typically nominations, thereby weakening the minority party's power. One key procedural aspect, while formally changing Senate rules requires 67 votes, formally changing the rules, in effect, 2/3 of senators duly chosen and sworn in, or through a standing rule modification, the nuclear option sidesteps that by changing interpretations of the rule via precedent rather than formally amending the rule text. The name nuclear is metaphorical, connoting that the move blows up Senate traditions, particularly protection of the minority, rather than, of course, a literal weapon. So, the filibuster being the rule, and again, the filibuster requires 60 votes to pass any piece of legislation, whatever it might be, whether it be appointments, cabinet seats, sub-cabinet positions, or in this case, legislation. So what the nuclear option is you can literally change the rule on the fly. And our friends whose live that I was part of, remember, I go there so you don't have to. You're welcome. We're just not willing to accept that reality because guys, look at Mr. Nice Guy complains about me every single day, but he's in here every single day. Mr. Nice Guy, did you get my love note? Did you get the whips and the chains? Because you left them behind when you were here last time. I appreciate it, but next time you can spank me harder, okay? I just want to let you know. Thanks, though. So when you have these right-wing creators who put their entire cred and reputation on the line and then are wrong, they can't admit it. And it's really dangerous because people who follow them, and there's so many popular right-wing creators who do the exact same thing. And this is how we bump into this shit all the time. We know for a fact that he was absolutely wrong. And then that kind of spilled over into our healthcare debate. And again, wrong about that too. Okay? So it is our job, my job, I take this personally, to try to educate, to do the best we can, to try to cut through the noise by just speaking in terms of what the facts say. Because, friends, at the end of the day, facts do, in fact, still matter. Okay? So let's get into this a little bit more. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Mr. Nice Guy, it's so nice to see you. You're still here. Again, I told you, I sent the whips and the chains back. You should get them tomorrow. I sent them via UPS. There was a little bit of skin left behind on them, so you can probably put that in your little box to save it for later. I appreciate that. And are we still getting together after the show today? I appreciate that. Next time you send a Richard pick, I would appreciate it if it was in a better state, because the last one, dude, did not represent you very well. Because let's put it this way. I hope you're a shower. Okay? Let's put it that way. Anyway, the filibuster in the Senate has a very long history. Under original Senate rules, unlimited debate was possible because the motion to end debate was rarely used. And until 1917, there was no formal cloture rule. In 1917, the Senate adopted Rule 23, the cloture rule, to allow debate to be limited if a certain number of senators agreed. In 1975, the number of votes required for cloture was reduced to 60, 3/5 of the Senate, from a higher threshold of 67. Over time, as Senate partisan polarization increased, the filibuster and cloture rules became major axes of conflict, particularly for judicial and executive branch nominations. The idea of the nuclear option was floated in the early 2000s. For example, in 2005, then Majority Leader Bill Frist threatened to use it to override Democratic filibuster of judicial nominees. On November 21st, 2013, under Majority Leader Harry Reid, Democrat from Nevada, the Senate, with Democrats holding the majority, used the nuclear option. The procedure, Reid raised a point of order that the vote on cloture under Rule 22 for all nominations other than for the Supreme Court should be by a simple majority. Chair ruled the point of order not sustained. Reid then appealed the ruling. The appeal was sustained by a 52-48 vote. The ruling of the chair thereby changed the precedent. Cloture on most nominations, executive branch and judicial branch, except for the Supreme Court, that could be achieved by a simple majority vote. Long story short, okay? Long story short, Republicans have been lying to you because they have known all along that they can use this. Okay? So it's nothing new. It's just, it hasn't been used for something like this before. Now, does it make it difficult for future Senate, for future parties who are in control of the Senate from the majority perspective? It does. It makes it more difficult for the minority party. But the question then becomes, right? If elections have consequences, then elections have consequences. If you can't win the majority, then you should be subjected to whatever the majority wants. If it can be a simple majority vote in the House, then it can be a simple majority vote in the Senate. So I hate to tell you, people who were in that live yesterday that are a fan of the House or a fan of the host, you are being lied to by him. And if all a person has left is to start flexing their credibility and to have their entire argument blow up in their face, the best part was when they went to look up the definition of the nuclear option and they read it. And even in reading it, it dunked on them. So it's like the ultimate self-own. And I'm just sitting there laughing. And Matt and I were communicating in the chat, and we were just laughing about how bad it was. So again, MAGA Republican government shutdown, who knows where it sits, but it could be coming to an end. Now, that creates another element of complication because the ACA subsidies are still scheduled to expire at the end of December. Okay? At the end of December. Right now, we can certainly finger point as to why this wasn't done more permanently, but every single time the Democrats have attempted to extend these subsidies, there's always been Republican obstruction, whether it be through the filibuster process or whether it be through a variety of things. Thank you, Wakanda. So they're now in a position where they're going to get some leverage back because they're going to open the government. It's likely going to happen. Oh, by the way, another lie that was told yesterday by this host was that the House were going to introduce a stopgap spending measure. The House isn't in session today. In fact, they're not scheduled to be back in session until tomorrow unless Mike Johnson tries to change that again. So yeah, it's another lie that you're being told. So what do I predict is going to happen? I think what's going to have to happen is that they are trying to figure out how they are going to spin this to their base. That's what they're trying to figure out now. When you lose Josh Hawley, what was the quote he said again? Let me see if I can find that. Josh Hawley said, I'm not willing to see children in my state go hungry over some Senate procedure. Marjorie Taylor Greene calling it out. Chip Roy calling it out. Rand Paul, in theory, calling it out as well. So they're stuck. And listen, I am sensitive to the fact that there are military families that aren't getting paid. I'm sensitive to the fact that federal workers are losing their jobs. I'm sensitive to the fact that SNAP benefits are impacted. I get it. But you've got to look at the big picture. And the only leverage that the Democrats hold right now in the Senate is people holding firm saying we're not going to vote for this CR. Remember what that CR was, right? That was to continue to fund the government. Now people can say it's a clean CR. It's not a clean CR because of what's changed. Democrats have been asking for negotiation regarding healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare, etc. Okay? And in particular, the ACA subsidies. And why? Where is the leadership? Where is the leadership from the administration? Why are they not making this a priority? We heard Caroline Leavitt flat out say, do I have that sound? We heard Caroline Leavitt talk about it. The only priority that the president has is the fucking ballroom. Here you go.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
In addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden
I'm going
patio,
into the back. Sorry. Go ahead.
in addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no. But he's a builder at heart, clearly, and so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to improve things here on the White House grounds. But at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
So the ballroom, just so you know. So I would like folks to know that. I would like farmers, middle-class Americans, conservative, right-wing MAGA who put all your hopes in that particular basket as your prices go up, as you lose your health care, as military members of your family are not getting paid. Just so you know, the ballroom is the number one priority of the president. So that's cool. So that's really cool. So again, Republicans are going to be forced to invoke the nuclear option because, again, if their policies were so great that it shouldn't be an issue, then it shouldn't be an issue at all. The ACA subsidies are still going to expire at the end of the year. So the question is, right? The question is, when Republicans open up the government again, because, again, the MAGA Republican Donald Trump government shutdown is entirely on the backs of the Republicans. When they open the government again, are they going to attempt to negotiate health care? If I was a betting man, I would say no way in hell. The reason, friends, the reason that this is happening, let's not forget. Two reasons. One, the Epstein files. That's a big one. Obviously, we're never going to forget that. We'll talk about it a little bit. They need the money to pay for the tax cut. Because Doge didn't exactly go the way they wanted it to, now did it? Considering that when the president took office, the national debt was $36 trillion. It just surpassed $38 trillion. Wasn't that Doge's job to save us all this money? Waste, fraud, and abuse, right? So I will remind you again. I will remind you what's at stake here. Millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans are going to be facing just ridiculous, yours truly included, ridiculous increases in their ACA subsidies or losing your insurance altogether. SNAP benefits. Another lie, by the way, that host said is that we're talking about $700 annually. It's not that big a deal. No, the average ACA subsidy is $584 that's paid, average, monthly. Okay? So you have a choice to make. MAGA that's in here, and Mr. Nice Guy, I know you're still here. Listen, man, I'll send you a spicy picture later. Don't you worry, big boy. If you're in here, what would you do? Is it more important for you to have the accurate information, or is it more important to you to own the libs? Because all you're doing is owning yourself. That's it. That's it. All you're doing is owning yourself. And it's unfortunate. It's not necessary. Doesn't have to be like that. But you've made that decision yourself. I can't help you with that.
So,
good morning, Jeff. Good morning,
Democrats
Jeff.
have failed the American people.
They
could have installed universal health.
Jeff, if you want to have
universal health care.
Jeff, if you want to have a conversation, you got to stop rambling. Okay? If you want to have a conversation, we can have a conversation, but you're not going to ramble.
Let's have a conversation.
Okay, so then stop rambling.
All right.
Okay. So what would you like to talk about, Jeff? And stay calm.
So
okay?
With the nuclear option, yes, Democrats could have installed universal health care under Joe Biden. Why didn't they?
No, we're talking about changing the entire healthcare agenda.
The nuclear option.
No, again, the nuclear option.
So the Democrats have failed the American people.
Jeff, you're doing it again, Jeff.
They could have codified Roe v. Wade.
Jeff, again, you're doing it again. Stop crashing. Do you want to have a conversation or not?
Codify Roe v. Wade.
Jeff, do you want to argue or do you want to be educated?
Go ahead.
Do you want to argue or do you want to be educated?
Please answer.
Jeff, Do you want to argue?
Please answer.
Jeff, do you want to argue or do you want to be educated?
Please answer.
Okay, goodbye, Jeff. Jesus Christ. Again, that's another example of people who just do not know how government fucking works. Okay? You don't want to debate, Jeff. You want to argue. So why? Why can't you try to learn something? Okay? My goodness gracious. And under Biden, when did they have a majority except for the first 2 years? Do you forget how that works? Now, I don't disagree with you regarding the codification of Roe v. Roe v. Wade, I should say, but it was settled law. If you want to have that debate, I can certainly have the debate with you. No doubt about it. We can have that conversation. But universal health care requires so many layers that other than just a legislative push. So stop with your bullshit. Okay? Stop. If you want to have an informed Jeff, you don't want to have a conversation. You just want to spew. Okay? If you're going to spew into this. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the engagement, Jeff. I appreciate it. Anyway, this is where we sit. Okay? This is where we sit. And I just wish that people would be willing to kind of put their political biases aside for just a moment and understand what's at stake. So when the Republicans use the nuclear option this week to reopen the government, how are they going to spin it? From my perspective, what they're going to say is this. I'm just thinking out loud. We in the majority understand the nature of what's at stake, and they're not even going to discuss it. They're not going to broadcast it. It's going to be up to journalists to make the claim or to refute the bullshit. It's going to be up to us. So we're going to call it out. Exactly. Jeff is muted for 5 minutes so we can pay attention. Thank you, Gregory. By the way, legend again for the win. Make the background for us. They're not going to discuss it. They're just going to push. And they're going to say, we, the Republican Party, really care about the American taxpayer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ignoring the fact, wanting their own voters to forget that the reason the government was shut down in the first place is because of them. That's where they sit. So you're going to see people like Jeff trying to find things from the past. They're going to start talking about Obamacare, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute because they're telling lies about that now as well. And then all of this comes back to healthcare. So more lies were being told on that particular live was about healthcare. And again, because they've been spoon-fed Fox or they've been spoon-fed Newsmax or whatever right-wing bullshit they wanted to ingest today, they're now believing that as fact. And again, if people were willing to read, they would understand. So just to summarize, Republicans in the Senate feeling the pressure because they are getting hammered in the polls. The majority of Americans still believe that it's Republicans and Donald Trump are responsible for the government shutdown. Okay? That's it. Period. That's where we sit. Good point, Jess. Jeff would bitch and moan if there was government overreach. Exactly. It's a good point. So that's the reality. So they're feeling the pressure. Mike Johnson has been lying about all of it. And we're going to, and my bitch boy, Mike Johnson, I'm not done with you yet, Mikey. I'm not done with you yet. I'm going to have to, Mr. Nice Guy, I just want to let you know, I'm going to have to avert my attention away from you for a little while so I can dunk on my other bitch, Mike Johnson. Would be an interesting throuple between the three of us. We can have that conversation, but you and Magic Mike can sit in the corner. I won't go there. Anyway. So what we have to fight through right now is this noise that because the Republicans are now caught, they don't know what to do. So let's talk about some of the elements that are connected to. Everybody understand what the nuclear option is? Just real quick, they call it nuclear because it's like the last ditch effort to try to get a majority favored piece of legislation passed. Okay? So they can do it, and they've been lying about it. He's still here. Mr. Nice Guy is still here. He needs some more attention. Isn't that great? Aw, he's so cute. Anyway, so they've been lying. So how do they spin it? We don't know yet. We'll see. So let's talk about the healthcare side, because again, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what's real and what's not. Mr. Nice Guy, you're not coming up here. You're a trashy human being. I would never invite you. I take the trash out of my house. I don't bring it in. Most people take the trash out. That's what I do. So no, you're not coming in here. Let's talk about, there's another thing that's called, it's PRWORA. So for the purpose of this conversation, we'll call it PRWORA. This is something that most people don't know, because like EMTALA, PRWORA, or PROWA, gives explanation about federal funding and how federal funding goes in support of Medicaid, Medicare, whether or not you can receive federal funding for Medicare, Medicaid if you are undocumented. So let me explain to you what it is. It's the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. In healthcare coverage, PRWORA is the law that set immigration status rules for eligibility for Medicaid, CHIP, and some other benefits. These are the key points. Remember, the claim from the Republicans has been that Democrats, and I heard it on the live over the weekend, that Democrats want to give $1.5 trillion to illegals. Okay? That is their claim. Now, nowhere in the Democrats' counter CR is that in there. Nowhere. Nowhere in the counter CR does it talk about, as they say, transgender for everyone. Nowhere in there. Nowhere. Okay? It doesn't exist anywhere. So it's a lie. What the Democrats are fighting for is money put back that was cut from Medicaid, from Medicare, from SNAP, from WIC, ACA subsidies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? I know they kept bringing up Medi-Cal. We'll talk about that in a second, Toodle, because that was interesting. All right, again, I'm just going to call it PR. So PR, or PRWORA, again, it stands for the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. It defines qualified versus non-qualified non-citizens and creates a 5-year ban. Many qualified immigrants must wait 5 years after getting status before they can get full Medicaid, CHIP, and or otherwise to determine their eligibility. Exemptions. Exempted groups include refugees, asylees, certain entrants, and others. There's no 5-year wait for them. So if you are a refugee, if you're an asylee, okay, emergency Medicaid remains available regardless of status, but federal matches only apply to services Again, it only applies, the federal match, so funding from the federal government, only applies to services actually furnished for an emergency condition. States have options. Since 2009, states may cover lawfully residing children and pregnant people in Medicaid and or CHIP without the 5-year wait. PRWORA remains the backbone for non-citizen eligibility across federal benefits. CRS provides overviews and how states can modify access. So here we go. Once again, federal funding cannot go for health care. It's against the law. States like California who have Medi-Cal, right? They receive funding from the federal government, but they use their state funds, which is roughly 1/3 the money that they spend on Medicaid, Medicare, to cover undocumented, right? So here we go. The party that claims fucking states' rights are pissed off that a state is not being reimbursed for federal money because it's against the fucking law. And then that rolled over to EMTALA. Here's a summary again. Qualified immigrants, lawful permanent resident status, refugee, an asylee, veteran may receive Medicaid. 5-year ban, most lawful permanent residents must wait at least 5 years after obtaining status before qualifying for Medicaid. Refugees, asylees, Cuban and or Haitian entrants, and certain other groups are exempt from this waiting period. PRWORA maintained emergency Medicaid for everyone, including undocumented immigrants, but limits it to emergency services only and necessary to treat acute medical conditions and or childbirth. The pro-life crowd. Don't you want babies being born? Oh, I get it. Unless they're white babies. Got it. Just want to make sure. CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program Reauthorization Act, or CHIPRA, of 2009, allowed states to opt out of the 5-year bar for lawfully residing children and pregnant people. So, what do we know? What do we know? We know that Republicans have been lying about the government shutdown. We know that Republicans have been lying about funding, because that doesn't even touch on the ACA. In the marketplace, you have to be either a citizen or have legal status to be part of the ACA. And like I have said to you guys a million times, if there is 100 people standing in front of if there's 100 people standing in front of you, and one of those persons is ineligible for food stamps or the ACA or Medicaid, people on the left who care about human rights and human beings would make sure that every single one of those people would have the appropriate coverage, even if one doesn't deserve it. And as witnessed over the weekend by the people that I was speaking to in that live, the same 100 people can be standing in front of them, and one person wouldn't deserve it. They would deny coverage, food stamps, benefits for all of them, because they keep going back to the fucking waste, fraud, and abuse bullshit. It tells us a lot about our society and the things that we should be paying attention to that we aren't. But that's where we sit right now, sadly. Good morning, Carl. How are you today?
Good morning. What is up with this boomer Reddit mod energy? Do you think you're a Jedi?
I'm a total Jedi. Aren't you?
Dude, you're fucking sick. Dude, you're actually helping.
What? Do you want to argue, or do you want to learn something?
Argue about what?
I don't know. You came in hot. Do you want to argue, or do you want to learn something?
Yeah, I just think it's super cringe. So what exactly do you think?
I don't care. Well, I'm educating people. Would you like to learn something?
Exactly.
Anything. Why is the government shut down?
Because Democrats and Republicans can't agree.
Right, but why specifically? Whose responsibility is it to keep the government open?
Well, Republicans have a mandate, and the Democrats don't want to capitulate to it.
Well, actually, that's not the question. Again, listen to what I'm asking you.
Frame it. Go ahead.
No, I'm just asking you a question. Who is responsible for the government shutting down?
I would say Democrats, because they won't capitulate.
No, but how are the Democrats responsible? They aren't in power.
Yeah, because they won't give the votes that are needed. That's how these things work.
Well, actually, the Republicans could open the government right now because of the nuclear option. In fact, they're actually considering that. So why haven't they used it up until now?
Maybe because they would like to have some coherence, in government, instead of having to go through these drastic measures, because Democrats can't, come together with them on the mandate that the people elected Trump to enforce.
So Carl, if there's a mandate, then why wouldn't they just use their power to open the government? If what you're claiming is true,
they could. They could,
but
right?
Why aren't they?
So what are the consequences of them doing that?
It becomes the new rule.
What do you mean by that?
So do you know what the nuclear option is? If you don't know, just say, I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Okay. The nuclear option gives the party who is the majority. So would you agree with me that the Republicans are the majority in the Senate? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you know what the filibuster is?
You have an idea.
Again, if you don't know, just say, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of forgot what it's about. Yeah. Okay.
The filibuster in the Senate, first of all, it's just a rule. Okay. It's just a rule, which means it can be changed because it has been changed. Filibuster requires 60 votes for pieces of legislation or whatever is introduced requires 60 votes to pass. Will you take my word for that, or do you need confirmation?
Do I work for what?
Will you take my word for that that's what it is?
I guess.
Do you want me okay, for the purposes of this argument, I'm asking if you can take my word for it. Requires 60 votes. So how many seats do the Republicans currently have, Carl?
I don't know.
In the Senate. Okay, they have 53, which then would mean under the filibuster conditions, they would need 7 Democrats to vote to get to that 60 vote threshold. So the continuing resolution is what we're talking about. That's what they're voting on.
Yeah.
So under the premise of the filibuster, that would require 7 Democrats to vote with Republicans to pass the CR. You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the mandate that you claimed was given to Republicans because they have the majority. Republicans can use what's referred to as the nuclear option, which means they could bypass the filibuster and just vote along a simple majority line. Why haven't they done that up until now, considering they are now considering they are now talking about doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's great. Should we just bypass, like, the Democrats? Like, they have their own free will, right? So I believe,
that's not the question, Carl. The question is, I asked you who's responsible.
Why shouldn't they do that? Because that's not, I don't think that's correct. I think we should go through our regular means of government. We shouldn't have to switch things up and bypass, entire groups of our...
The Republicans just used it. They just used it 5 weeks ago.
What? For what?
The Republicans just... for sub-cabinet appointments, because that's one of the things that would typically fall under the filibuster. They invoked the nuclear option. That way they could just do it with a simple majority vote. So why wouldn't they do it for this, Carl? Again, I'm only going by the words that you said.
I don't know.
Okay,
I've never heard of this nuclear option. Sure, man. I don't know why they're not using it.
Okay, so then let's back up a second. So now that you know that, I'm asking you a question again. Who's responsible for the government being shut down?
Democrats.
How?
Because they're trying to force us into that position. They don't have to do that.
Okay, they also don't have to vote for gutting health care for millions of Americans.
Yeah, sure.
Do they? They don't have to vote for that, do they?
No, I think they should morally, because it actually hasn't been helping people. Our healthcare system is terrible. And I think they should definitely capitulate instead of trying to force us to do this nuclear option that you're talking about. It's childish.
Okay, but why?
Of course. Okay, so are you going to call Trump a fascist when he just bypasses all their votes? Let's say, screw the filibuster. Let's just go with this nuclear option that you're describing. Would you not be complaining about that?
It's got nothing to do with Trump. This is the Senate.
So you're saying he couldn't tell them to go with that option?
He could, sure, but
it's what I'm saying. He could easily suggest it, and then you guys would just complain and cry. Oh, he's a fascist. He doesn't care about what we think.
Well, he is a fascist. I mean,
I know you're a boomer. You're a boomer. You think you're a Jedi. I get it.
I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X, bro. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Either way, you're deluded and you're old. Either way. Yes, apparently you are, because you don't understand that. Yeah, we have this process for a reason, right? So, we should just throw it away because Democrats are incapable. I guess you're not wrong.
Carl, you didn't know what the process was up until our 5-minute conversation here. So don't go back and try to think that you're some expert on it. You didn't know what the nuclear option was.
You know I'm right, though. You know I'm right.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Because, we could go with this nuclear option, or the Democrats could grow up. Those are the two options, right? That's what you said.
It's okay. Okay.
Are you done? You got something to say?
Oh, I have lots to say. Here's the thing, Carl. What you don't understand is, first of all, how the machine works. And again, the question, I just explained it to you. I took you through the exercise. I gave you my time. I should send you a bill. I gave you my time for nothing.
Yeah, I know.
And here we are. Hold on. And here we are. Now that you know that the Republicans are actually discussing using the nuclear option, which means they could have used it all the time, Carl, and you still want to blame Democrats.
Yeah, because it's not all the Republicans' fault. That's crazy.
Are they or are they not the majority?
They're the majority, but that doesn't mean anything. Because it doesn't mean anything, no, because they wouldn't have to do that you're describing if the Democrats weren't giving them a hard time on it. If you want healthcare for illegal immigrants, then just say that.
They don't. That's not what's in the bill, Carl.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's against the law.
Yeah, it's not in the bill, but they can use the Affordable Care Act to pay for illegal immigrants, right? So they can do that. Carl. And Democrats literally say that.
Carl.
That's what they want to do, right?
Carl, it's against the
don't
law.
Answer my question.
I'm trying to.
Just keep saying my name. Yeah, I can't hear you, by the way.
It's against the law, Carl.
No, it isn't.
Did you know that? Yes, it is.
Really?
The ACA is not.
So if it's against the law, then why do they keep advocating for it?
They're not advocating for it.
Yeah, they are. And they didn't
Can you cite
pass
your source,
the law.
please?
But now that they're being caught and they're not in power, they want to roll it back, right? They want to make it seem like that wasn't their goal.
Carl, can you cite your source, please?
Who? The Democrats that were saying that?
Again, the ACA is only available to either U.S. citizens or people with lawful legal status. It's literally in the language of the bill. Okay.
So
language.
So what was the talking point that they were saying?
Wait. Stop talking. Stop. It's also specific to Medicaid, Medicare. And he left. Oh God, they're so desperate. I'll bring up one other person, then I'll get back to our topic today. It's interesting though, right? Isn't it? Good morning, Matthew. How are you today? Matthew, are you there? Matthew, are you there? Matthew, are you shitting? Matthew? Yeah. I don't want to listen into Matthew's morning evacuation. I did. Good morning, Trish. How are you today?
Oh, I accidentally joined. I'm so sorry.
It's no problem. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. So that was again, I spent the first half an hour, 40 minutes of the show this morning taking people who want to learn something through the exercise as to what the nuclear option is, why the Republicans, you could make the political argument that it wouldn't be a good thing for them to do because, again, it changes the rules. That's not the issue. The issue is, can they do it? Yes, they can. And are they considering it now? Yes, they are. And then it's going to blow back on them. We talked about PRWORA, which again makes it illegal to use federal funding for people who are not undocumented, unless there's a couple of categories: asylees, refugees, etc. And then specifically the ACA. Nowhere in the continuing resolution offered by Democrats does it talk about funding for illegals. Not in there. So you guys know how I feel about propaganda, disinformation, and misinformation. So here we are. It's getting spewed all over the place. And we're trying to educate people, but people don't really seem interested. So let me, real quick, let me head on over here. I want to thank some people for your kindness. Again, guys, we are crowdfunded. I really appreciate you guys all showing up every single day. There's 2,000 people in here. Thank you so very, very much. This goes to Marilyn. Thank you so very, very much. You're so kind with your blue hearts. I appreciate you very, very much. Also, thank you to, it's loading. Thank you to Erica. Erica, you're sweet. I appreciate you very much. Thank you, Erica. You're very kind. That's all nice. I got all giddy that I got a contribution from Erica. I love Erica. Okay, so let me just adjust this real quick. Now, you can pull into your camp if you want and just not be willing to believe the truth, because it's easy to blame, right? We live in this world now. Love you, friend. We live in this world now where it's easy to blame, right? And I don't like to do the blame game politics, but I'm going to call balls and strikes. All right. I'm going to play some sound from AOC real quick, because I think it's kind of how I feel about this whole thing. And she's right. And anytime we can hear from AOC is fine by me, but I just think it's indicative of the things that we discuss in this space all the time about how people on the left, we care more about your family's health and well-being and your family's access to food and your family's access to lower rent and lower mortgage prices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And AOC is talking about it right here. And we'll get back to our breakdown of the specifics of the bill itself. But here's AOC.
Believes that if you don't vote for him, he doesn't have to be your leader. That if you didn't vote for him, that you don't deserve good things to happen to you. I don't care if someone voted for me or not. I don't care if someone is a Republican or an independent or a Democrat. I don't care if someone likes me or not. That will never change the fact that I'm going to fight for them to have health care. I want MAGA to have health care. I want MAGA to be paid a living wage. But he doesn't want people who are Democrats, or he doesn't want people based on their political affiliation to benefit. And that is the difference between a strongman and an authoritarian and a leader of a democracy.
So, what else is there to say from the Queen, right? What else is there to say? That's the whole point. Now, again, people are going to pull into their camps because it's going to be at this point the right has conditioned their voters to believe that the threat is the American left. We're called extremists. We're called radical. We're called threats to democracy. We're called sickos. We're called terrorists, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Think about the things that we're fighting for. Is it extreme that people like me want to fund public education, overfund it? Is it extreme that we want to guarantee a living wage for people? Is it extreme that we don't want children to starve? Is it extreme that we want healthcare to be affordable and we see healthcare as a human right? Is it extreme that we believe that women should have rights to their body? Is it extreme that marginalized communities should just be left the fuck alone? Is it extreme that we want corruption out of politics? Is it extreme? Are all those things extreme? I mean, if that's the fight, that's what we're talking about here. Again, what Democrats are doing, now you can disagree, and I get it. I completely understand that the use of the nuclear option is going to set precedent that could come back to bite people, but I've said publicly, and I'll say it again, I don't believe in the filibuster. I think it's just bullshit. If you win, if you have the majority, then you have the majority. Elections have consequences, okay? But for people to be continually lied to, and for the people on the right who are the most impacted, I'll say this again, caught up in all this as the ACA subsidies expiring, 56% of the people that are on the ACA are represented by Republicans in Congress. 78% of people on the ACA are in states that Donald Trump won in 2024. We know the highest recipients of Medicaid, Medicare programs live in red states. Highest percentage of people that are receiving SNAP benefits live in red states. So the argument that people have wanting to blame the left for this when it's Republicans in the Senate that are literally fighting for your health care. Say what you want, it's fine by me. But to have that be part of the conversation is crazy to me. So I'm going to invite our friend Blue up. We're going to do a little bit on Mondays now. Our friend Blue is going to talk a little bit about the latest in immigration. We're going to do this at kind of a regular series. So I will first welcome you, friend. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for willing to do this. I appreciate it a lot. What's on your mind?
Thank you for having me.
Got it.
I have a few quick hits here. Just say, there we go. So a little roundup of immigration for the past week. So the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services clarifies who owes the $100,000 H-1B fee. USCIS guidance narrows the $100,000 H-1B fee to new beneficiaries outside the U.S. paid before filing and included with the petition, or the case will be denied. So right now, if you want to get it, for immigrants who want to get an H-1B visa, the corporation has to pay $100,000 in order for them to even be considered. Change of status amendments and extensions inside the U.S. are exempt. Early White House clarification, or early White House clarifications also said existing H-1Bs and re-entries aren't hit by the fee. Lawsuits from employer groups are pending. So most U.S.-based F-1, the student visas, to H-1B visa changes avoid the fees. Overseas recruiting gets pricier. Petitions.
So a little bit of misinformation, but thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it.
Petitions without proof of payment face outright denial. So once again, it's basically a pay to play system, or it's more of a gamble, where the company has to pay $100,000 for a potential temporary work visa.
Okay.
So next on the list.
Yeah, let's do one. Let's do one more.
Oh, sure.
What else? Let's do one more. What else you got?
Let's see. So Congress probes reports that ICE detained U.S. citizens. Representative Robert Garcia, from the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, and Senator Richard Blumenthal's Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations ranking member, opened a bicameral investigation into reports that U.S. citizens were detained during immigration raids and protests. They demanded DHS records by November 3rd and signaled a Los Angeles field hearing. Detaining citizens, even briefly, raises grave constitutional and civil rights issues. DHS lacks consistent tracking of citizen detentions, hampering accountability. Los Angeles officials back scrutiny as raids intensify. Parallel concerns have surfaced in other cities. And a recent Supreme Court decision about factors in investigative stops complicates the on-the-ground picture.
So they're trying to address, and long story short, they're attempting to address the fact that U.S. citizens are being swept up in this bullshit, basically.
Exactly. If they're going to be doing these sweeping raids, they should be able to identify who they're picking up.
You would think, I know that there was that story of a city in Idaho, which is outside the 100 miles from a border, where they went to like a farmer's market and they just swept up a whole bunch of people, including American citizens. So, hey, Blue, thank you so much for doing that. We'll make this a weekly thing, maybe Mondays. I think Mondays at 9 o'clock Eastern time work for you. Is that right?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, friends. If you don't follow Blue, please follow Blue and anticipate more goodness. If you're not in our Discord, please be in our Discord so we can provide what you talk about here. I appreciate you being here, friend. Thanks a lot for doing that. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. See you later. Take care. That's great. So here we go. This whole debate about ICE being the need for protection, like we're protecting ICE from what? From themselves? There's been reporting recently of people claiming to be ICE agents, right? And then robbing houses, violating people's rights. Doxing? You're afraid of ICE agents being doxed? Do federal judges get to wear masks? Do law officers, the Blue, do they get to wear masks? How do we know that these fucking thugs, the jackbooted dipshits, who have the lowest bar of qualifications necessary? So MAGA, perfect job for you guys. Mr. Nice Guy, you're not man enough to do that job, Mr. Nice Guy. You have soft hands. You're probably not soft. You like the caress. Your hands are too soft. You couldn't do it. But again, thank you, Blue. I appreciate that. Okay, let me go back to what we were just discussing. The amount of lies that are being told because Republicans are now desperate and they don't know what to do. Now, in response to the claim about whether or not the use of the nuclear option would be good, I don't give a fuck about the filibuster. I'm ready for it to go away. I'll accept the results. I'll accept it because, in my opinion, majority rule means something, right? I'm not talking mob rule. If it only requires a simple majority vote in the House, why can't it be a simple majority vote in the Senate? Elections have consequences, okay? So I'll remind people once again that EMTALA, I have the definition here for you. Hang on one second. Just want to read this. EMTALA, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, signed into law as part of the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, or COBRA, signed into law by Ronald Reagan in 1986, provides medical screening. EMTALA requires that any hospital with an emergency department that participates in Medicare must provide a medical screening examination to anyone who comes to the emergency department and requests care, and then stabilize the patient if they have an emergency condition, or transfer them appropriately if the hospital cannot stabilize condition. It doesn't matter your immigration status. It's just whether or not you have the ability to pay. It covers everybody. And I asked this question to conservatives, the pro-life crowd. If there was an undocumented person that you could confirm was undocumented, okay, and they get hit by a car, what would you like to happen to that individual? Would you prefer that they just not be treated? Now, I'll ask the same question if it was you, MAGA. If it was you that was hit by the car and you were injured and you didn't have insurance, should you not be treated? Because that's what this is. And you don't want to pay for it. Well, we, people who pay into the system, already pay for you if you don't have it. Do you understand that? One of the reasons that we have such exorbitant costs for our healthcare in our country is because we have so many people that are uninsured. And that includes a lot of people who wear the red hat. Uninsured, underinsured. And quite frankly, I, like AOC, I want you to have healthcare coverage. I do. I want every single American to have access to affordable healthcare. Not free. No one's ever said free. We would pay for it with our tax dollars. And I've said this a million times. I just passed 120,000 followers on TikTok. Thank you all. I would delete my account right now, and you would never see me again if you could find me an economic argument against universal healthcare. Because you can't. We'd save money. We would be healthier. Our life expectancy would increase. Period. And I still don't know why. Oh, I know why. But the resistance to this is just it's diabolical that people just don't give a fuck. We spend time talking about healthcare because it matters to me and it should matter to you as well. So again, EMTALA, emergency treatments only. It's irrelevant of your immigration status. It's all about whether or not you can afford to pay or not. And that's what this fight is over. So you want to blame Democrats for it, for missing a paycheck? You can if you want to, sure. If there's thousands of federal workers that are out of work that are not getting paid, that sucks. It's absolutely horrible. We all can agree on that. When faced with what we have to deal with here, Democrats are looking at this. Sure, we could vote for this. Yep, and federal employees would get their paycheck back and all those kinds of things. But the Republicans have made no effort to solve the healthcare issue because we are approaching that cliff where those subsidies are going to expire at the end of the year, which is going to affect 10 times more people in our country. Actually, 100 times more. So oftentimes politics is about harm reduction. You're never going to solve a perfect problem. Never. You're never going to have a perfect solution to a problem that exists. We have a broken fucking healthcare system in our country. It's horrible that we can't afford it. It's disgusting. It's despicable. Republican Party hasn't done jack shit about it in 50 years. The only thing they've ever attempted to do is cut programs. They wanted to repeal and replace Obamacare. Promises of a healthcare solution that's coming in 2 weeks. And now, here we are. They cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid, Medicare under the guise of work requirements that already exist. And yet you fund, we'll use Walmart as the example. I talked about this last week. You'll fund tax cuts and subsidies for the richest corporations and the richest individuals in our country. Walmart is part of their orientation program, explains to their employees how they can get access to federal programs, like SNAP benefits, for example. So think about that for a second. Walmart, the Walton family, one of the richest and wealthiest families in our country. They have a company, a corporation, their business, Walmart, who pays ridiculous starvation wages to their employees. And in their orientation, they tell their employees how they can get federal subsidies. Okay, so follow this train. The government, the Republican-led tax plans, gives the Walton family and corporations like that massive tax breaks, driving up the deficit. It's gone from $36 trillion at the beginning of the year to $38 trillion now. What the fuck did Doge do? Okay, so Walmart, right? They in turn, their employees go through go through the program of getting SNAP benefits. Where do you think they spend their SNAP benefits? They spend it at Walmart. So not only does Walmart get the tax break and the subsidies from the federal government, like the biggest, for example, the biggest recipients of welfare in our country are corporations. And then their employees, in turn, because they can't make a living wage working at Walmart, they in turn spend their measly benefits that they get through SNAP at Walmart. Make that make sense. And this is what we're fighting about. And this is what the Democrats are doing. These are the things that they're fighting about. And I don't know how else we can continue to convince people of this other than they're going to have to suffer. Even then, that may not work. Making Magic. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Nothing. So I'm going to go a little bit off topic here, and I have a crazy idea that I wanted to run past you because you are my go-to person for making it all make sense.
Okay.
So when all of this crazy bullshit is said and done, how do you feel about taking this idea to the people and getting some sort of collective idea from us, the people, working with the government, because it has to be, in order to not rewrite the Constitution, but to rewrite the Constitution, if you get what I'm saying? Because there are things like Trump has mastered to find loopholes in everything in the Constitution to get away with what he's getting away with. He finds those little loopholes to get away with what he's
I don't think he's finding loopholes. I think he's just saying I don't give a shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mean like I just like again, people trying to make claims that he can run for the president. No, he can't. 22nd Amendment says you can't, but he's going to do it anyway. I don't think it's loopholes. I think he is just saying that we have this power and they're going to allow the courts to rule on it.
Right. Because I think there are things in the Constitution that just need to be like, this is the way it is. There's no wiggle room around it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, I try to have the hope. I try to have, there's a brighter side on this, and every day it's just, there is. I'm so on the Jedi side. And if people don't understand what a Jedi, the difference between a Jedi and a Sith is, I don't know. Gotta go do some homework.
Yeah. No. Just keep the faith. Just keep the faith. Okay. Just keep the faith. Just keep the faith. All right.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Have a good day. Talk to you later. You too. See you later. I get the point. Sure. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, I know Gavin Newsom talked about a 28th Amendment, right? And again, another exercise that I always find fun is people who claim to know the Constitution. They don't even know how many amendments there are. They don't know how many articles they are. So Gavin Newsom talked a while ago about a 28th Amendment that would address firearm violence, about rewriting the 2A, whatever that would look like. That's an example of things that we can do, but we've got to get there first. So again, EMTALA guarantees emergency responses to situations for everyone, irregardless of immigration status. It's irrelevant. It's all about whether or not you have the right to pay. And that PROARA makes it very clear that federal dollars cannot be used for people who are undocumented. So that is it. That is it. That's the entire game. Nothing I know, regardless. I know, I get it. I know, I understand. As soon as I said it, I'm like, shit, that's not a word. I think I'm not going to go there. As somebody who deals in words for a living, you're right. Regardless of what I just said, there's no language in the Democrats' response to the CR that the Republicans have passed. There's no language in there at all. None. There's no language about extending benefits to undocumented people. They've been lied to, and they get so emotional when you're talking when they're talking to their voters, they or the people that are in their communities. They get so emotional about it, and they can't handle it. So we're going to stick on this story because it's important. We're going to monitor this today. I think the one big thing that I think is really, really interesting in this whole conversation is my bitch, aka Mike Johnson, because he just continues to lie to the American people every single day about a variety of things. So the latest that my little bitch has been lying about is the $230 million that think about this, in case you guys haven't heard this story. During the Biden administration, there was rumblings that Donald Trump was like literally going to sue the Department of Justice to be reimbursed for $230 million. Because his claim that he's owed this money. Let me just reset the live goal. Thank you guys for helping out with that. What should we do? Let's do a pumpkin or something. No, let's do donuts. Yes, donut. Okay. There we go. Think how crazy this is now. So the Department of Justice is Donald Trump's appointed Department of Justice is going to determine whether or not American taxpayers are going to give the president $230 million of which he would approve. Now, I don't know. I don't think corruption is even close to how we would describe this. But here's Mike Johnson. Don't forget, for days, he said, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know what this means. Like, I don't know anything about it. So here's his answer to this question. This is fucking wild from somebody who claims to be such a constitutional scholar.
How comfortable are you with the president apparently seeking $230 million from the Department of Justice?
I don't know the details about that. I'm just...
You don't know the details, Mike? Okay.
Read it. I didn't talk with him about that. I know that he believes he's owed that reimbursement. What I heard yesterday was if he receives it, he was going to consider giving it to charity. I mean, he doesn't need those proceeds, but we're for the rule of law. We're for what is just and right. And it's just absurd that, I mean, as has been noted here several times this morning, they attack him for everything he does. It doesn't matter what it is. This whole dust up about the White House, just by way of quick review, because I'm an amateur historian, you'll understand, the White House has been renovated many times over the years, you understand. I mean, it was built between 1792 and 1800, right? The British burned it down practically in 1814, and then they rebuilt it in the early 1820s. And ever since, like, we've had many presidents renovate and add things to the White House. Teddy Roosevelt built the whole...
Oop, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mike, your job as Speaker of the House is supposed to kind of know what's going on. I mean, you are second in line to the presidency, right? And the argument that you're attempting to make to pivot away from the conversation about the blatant fucking corruption, I can't even think of an analogy to describe what we're talking about here. The hand-picked attorney general, a cabinet-level position at the top of the Department of Justice, is going to determine whether or not taxpayer dollars will go to reimburse the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list predator. Why? Because he didn't like the fact that he got investigated? I mean, we can point to corruption. We can talk about the ballroom and all the names of people that are connected to that in tech and in aerospace and in defense. Why the fuck are they involved? Who's this angel investor that just forked over a bunch of money to pay the military? We don't fucking know what's connected to that. And yet you guys just sit here, MAGA just sits here, smelling their own farts and saying, what about Biden? What about Hunter's old pictures? What about Hunter's cock? Like, come on. Again, we're here to educate. You can choose to get angry about it, but we're here to try to educate you because that is next level corruption. I share that little sound there because I knew Mike Johnson was going to go down the road of, well, this has happened before. This has happened before. We've used the White House has been renovated, and now the claims are about Barack Obama. Of course they are. So the claim has been that the White House was renovated to the tune of $376 million during the Obama administration. So the problem with what's happening, like, I don't give a fuck about the ballroom. I really could care less. It's not something we're going to ever be able to go to anyway. The issue is the hypocrisy. The issue is just the fucking bullshit. The issue is the fact that he's doing it without congressional approval. Period. Okay? So that's been the argument that the right is trying to make. They're trying to say, well, Barack Obama did the same thing and you guys weren't pissed off about that. Well, sadly, what you guys don't know is that there's this thing called the internet. So there's a claim made by this person, MAGA Doodle, that I found on Twitter, and said, hey, liberals, in 2010, Obama spent $370 million on White House renovations paid for by taxpayers. Trump's renovation cost taxpayers $0. Now, that would be alarming if it were true. The renovations under Obama did, in fact, take place to the tune of around $376 million. However, the most important element of that story was that the Congress approved the funding in 2008 during the Bush administration, and the renovations were aimed to upgrade the building's aging infrastructure. According to the story, the misleading report suggested that Obama personally spent $370 million on White House renovations, as some posts have claimed. Congress approved it in 2008. Congress, during the Bush administration. And by the way, do you kind of miss W in a strange way? It's weird. $376 million that went to the renovation of the White House. That this poster said, hey, liberals, in 2010, Obama spent $370 million on White House renovations paid for by taxpayers. Money approved by Congress in 2008, because that's how it's supposed to work. But nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. I'm sure it's totally fine. Nothing to see. So here we are again. It's not that difficult to find the information if you're willing to try to find it. If you're willing to do a little bit of work and just look past the headlines. Y'all don't have to. We got you. We appreciate you tuning in every single day. By the way, thank you for that. There is a gifting goal today. If you've not yet joined our team, please consider doing so. If you've not seen the new merch in the merch store, please go check it out because there's a lot of cool shit over there. Either at Facts HQ, you can find the link in the link tree. It's over there. Or just go to factsstillmatter.site. Thank you. So the new mantra, and I thank you for saying for this suggestion, do you want to argue or do you want to be educated? Because I'm not interested in arguing with you. I'll go to your space and argue, but here, no. If you want to be informed, like, for example, MAGA, did you know that Congress approved the funding that this person tried to say was Obama stealing from taxpayers? Did you know that? Did you know that Congress approved that funding during the Bush administration? And that money was spent during the Obama administration because the report determined that the White House needed some infrastructure changes. Did you know that? If you didn't know that, then maybe you could be like, shit, I didn't know that. But Obama, he wore a damn tan suit. God damn it. You know why I hate that guy? Because he's smart. Wait a second. What are you saying then? Well, I mean, yeah. Speaking of corruption, there's a story reported on from the New York Times. A small company that has been manufacturing motors domestically for only a few weeks stands to make a lot of money. It's a bold plan. A team of defense industry startups envision a new fleet of miniaturized unmanned aircraft carriers stuffed with autonomous drones, anti-aircraft missiles, and torpedoes that will take on just about any enemy at sea. And this group pitching the Pentagon comes with an unusual sweetener: close financial ties with Don Jr. Yeah, nothing to see here, though. He's positioned to profit considerably if this ambitious but unproven venture succeeds. But again, Hunter's cock. Again, Hunter selling art. But this, nothing to see here, right? The proposal by two companies, Puerto Rico-based Red Cat, with drone parts supplied by Unusual Machines based in Orlando, reflects the unprecedented role the president's both sons are playing, not only as supporters of their dad's policies, but also as investors in ventures selling to agencies their father controls. So, again, the federal government determines what contracts they're going to use. What companies they're going to contract with. What individuals they're going to invite for access. And Donald Trump and his Jr. and Eric stand to gain a lot of money. We're talking about the defense industry. So, anybody on the right want to question that at all? Anybody? I know, right, Jay Nice? Another grift? I know. Our friends on the right don't know how this works. They just see this as, hey, Don Jr. and Eric, they can do whatever they want. They're smart businessmen, just like their dad. This is a government contract. A government contract who their dad is at the top of the government. Their dad then can determine what contracts get signed and with whom. So his boys stand to make a lot of money on this government contract. All of his friends. Think about the people that were invited to the inauguration. Think about the people that are investing in the ballroom. Do you guys think it's just coincidence? I have the list. Let's go through it. Where is it? These are the companies publicly that we know have invested in the ballroom. Okay? Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, T-Mobile, Comcast, Palantir, which is in data analytics and defense, Coinbase, Ripple Labs in crypto, Coinbase in crypto, Altria Group, tobacco, Booz Allen Hamilton Holding Corporation, a defense contractor, and Lockheed Martin. So, anybody on the right care to discuss that? This is the deep state. This is literally, for years, what Donald Trump was able to convince his voters that the left was doing. This is literally the deep state. The people that the right were told to hate. The people that the right were said, these guys, it's the corporate elites, it's the East Coasters, it's the West Coasters, it's all the money and politics. Donald Trump's in there to drain this fucking swamp. No, he expanded the swamp. He just made it bigger. Exactly. East Wing Toilets brought to you by T-Mobile. Exactly. It's a great comment. So, somebody want to explain it? Initially, it was like he was going to pay for it. Then it was going to be private donors. Now it's going to be Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, T-Mobile, Comcast, Palantir, Coinbase, Ripple, Altria, Booz Allen Hamilton, and Lockheed Martin. And that's just a few. That's not even all of them. But nothing to see here, right? The combined wealth of the people in that list has got to be a couple $1 trillion easily. They could solve healthcare tomorrow. But no. they're going to invest in the ballroom. And what is that going to get them? That's going to get them access to shit. Insider trading information, preferential treatment, tax-exempt bullshit, antitrust crap, tax breaks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, nothing to see here, right? It really, really, really bothers me that people have been so fucking duped. Just like Doge. Just like Doge. Everybody was so excited about Doge that Doge is going to reduce our deficit. Doge is going to bring down the debt. The debt has gone up $2 trillion since January. But now they'll come up with some other excuse. Some other excuse. They'll just find something else, somebody else to blame as opposed to the people who are actually committing these fucking crimes. It's blatant fucking fraud. What did somebody say about Joe Biden? Joe Biden was the biggest pleaser of lobbyists? That's hilarious. Wow. Did Joe Biden invite Altria Group, Booz Allen, and Lockheed Martin to invest in a ballroom? Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. That's quite a flex. So this is Jerome Powell talking about the debt. And he's right. And this is something that should concern us all, and then we're going to unpack it a little bit.
The U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy.
I have the sense this worries you very much.
Over the long run, of course it does. You know, we're borrowing from future generations.
Yeah, no shit.
It's time for us to get back to putting a priority on fiscal sustainability, and sooner is better than later.
He's right. He's right. It wasn't the goal to come in and reduce the size of the federal government by firing people? And again, our friends on the right don't understand that Donald Trump has attributed more to our debt than any president from a time in office perspective. Anyone. I mean, it's crazy because basic economics would tell you that when you cut taxes, that means you reduce the amount of revenue that the federal government will collect. And then when you increase spending, that increases the deficit. So that's what they're doing. They are increasing spending and cutting revenue, which is exactly why we are in the position that we're in now. Now, again, want to point to where the reduction in revenue comes from? That comes from the TCJA, which was just extended by the big, beautiful, fucking ugly ass bill. So, what, Polly Boy, do you disagree? What about the tariffs? What about them? The debt has gone from $36 trillion to $38 trillion. What tariff money? That mean that we pay? We pay the tariffs. Okay? We pay it. So I'd like somebody to explain it. I'd like somebody to explain that to me. Explain it. If the goal was to reduce the deficit and to reduce the debt, none of those things have happened. It just gets wider and wider and deeper and worse and worse. I'm not worth it. Okay, I lie. I appreciate you. You're so kind. Thanks so much. It's wild. Yeah, you found it on the tariff shelf, exactly. Anne-Marie, are you there? You can request again if you want to. I see Crow has requested. I'll bring him up. If you want to come back, Crow, I can bring you up, buddy. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going? What's on your mind?
Oh, it's going. It's just kind of something I noticed when I was growing up. I'm like Generation Jones. And I remember very specifically TV commercials and groups and everything, and it was all about peace and no racism. We were trying to come together for the betterment of the country and everything. And those same people are now the ones that are trying to hold us back.
That's conservatism for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
I don't think there was ever a spot though, Heather, where there was no racism. I mean, I think I know what you're trying to say, but the racism is alive and well.
I remember the songs like, red and yellow, black and white. We are something in the, I don't know. I can't remember the exact words, but it was an attempt at equalizing, and it just got blown out of the water somewhere in like the 80s. It seems like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's messaging. I mean, sure. I mean, I think it's just, we can't ignore the fact that, our system was built on white supremacy and racism, and it still exists. And just now you're seeing it out loud, flat out loud. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's
appreciate
just crazy. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for jumping in today. Have a good day. I'll see you later.
You too.
Yeah, Brooke, if you're in the, yes, I could use a bit of a break. Brooke, if you don't mind, appreciate that. So the thing that I always hold on to in these conversations is that we do our best every single day to try to navigate through the noise. The things that the right has been complaining about the longest has been the deep state and the levels of corruption. And yet they're unwilling to call it out. They're just unwilling to call it out. Like, how would they address that situation with Donald Trump Jr.? You know what they would say? I know enough. I mean, inside their mind, there's a lot of room in there. What they would say, what's wrong with that? They're great businessmen. Okay, but you were pissed off that Hunter Biden sold art for what, $50,000 or $100,000? Well, that's corruption. You see what I mean? They'll find some way to spin it, some way, and it's just, to me, it's comical as to how far they'll go, but they'll figure out how to do it. Thank you for being here, friend. I will use your kindness to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am here just to give Steve just a little break. I want to thank you all for joining. Keep tapping and sharing. We've got 1,800 people in here, which is awesome for a Monday morning, and it has been a Monday. I overslept this morning. Oh my goodness. We're so happy you all are here. Please keep liking, sharing the lives. Consider subscribing at factsstillmatter.site. Also, head on over to factsstillmatter.site to check out all of the awesome merch that's out there. Sam has just been going crazy with designing merch, and there's some great ones. I'm waiting for my shipment to arrive with my 2 new shirts. Also, if you have the means, please consider sending $1 or $2 to Fax's Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo. They are all at Factsstillmatter. So if you appreciate all the information, all the education you're getting here, just reach out and give him a little thank you with a dollar or $2. Everything is appreciated. I want to remind everybody to use the 5 Calls app. Make your phone calls every day. Call your senators. Do what you can. We need to have our voices be heard. If you don't know what to say, you can check out the Discord. We have a call to action template section in the Discord that will give you some ideas of what to say if you're making phone calls or sending emails. Also in the Discord, we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of great conversations. We have a mutual aid forum where people can, if they need a little help with affording food, paying their bills, they can ask. And if you have a little extra, check that out. We've also started an aid resources forum where we're going to post places where you may be able to get free food or help for with food or help with anything else you may need to afford. For instance, I was going to post in there, I went to Walmart. I know we all hate Walmart, but I went there yesterday and I noticed that their canned goods, their brands of canned goods have been reduced from 74 cents a can to 50 cents a can. I mean, that's a big jump. if you have a few extra dollars, consider buying a few cans to stick in a little free pantry. Or if you need to stock up, it's a great time to spend a few dollars and stock your own pantry for the future. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I just wanted to say hi, see how you were doing.
I'm good. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And my hat looks great. So thank you so much.
I know. I saw you wearing it. I wasn't sure if you were going to actually wear it again. It does still have some other little holes in it from Kipper.
Yeah,
but
well, at
least it's in one piece.
It is indeed. Thank you I love you, friend. Thanks for being here. You ready?
You're welcome. Love you too. Have a good day.
You too.
Oh, wee.
Okay, so again, our Discord community, just join it because there's a ton of stuff in there. I just want to take a quick little detour, and we're going to talk about some things that the president has mentioned recently on True Social. There's a post with him sitting with this picture. Okay, so first of all, I mean, that is just like. So the True Social post reads, "Look how beautiful the Oval Office is now. Many of those great paintings of past presidents were in the vaults for over 100 years. Now they are for everyone to enjoy." Look how fucking trashy that is. I mean, come on. If you've ever been to Reno, it kind of reminds me of some like the old school casinos in Reno. First of all, for everyone to see? No, we don't get to go to the Oval Office. It's just so bad. And then there's this little one that I like. Let them get nothing. Sorry, that didn't look the way I wanted it to. Anyway, you're in Reno. Can you relate? Yeah. So it looks like, or you know what, Lake George. If you've ever been to Lake George, New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. or like Weir's Beach in New Hampshire. Yeah, okay. Let me shift gears a little bit, and I want to bring up a few things that are still kind of, churning. And again, it's MTG. Okay, so she was on with Tucker recently, and she has been a voice against this corruption. And we try to call balls and strikes here. So here you go.
For example, this $40 billion bailout for Argentina. That's probably one of the grossest things I've ever seen. And I have no idea who is telling our great president, our America First president, that this is a good idea. Because it's a punch in the gut to all of our American cattle ranchers, and they are furious, and rightfully so. And at the same time, I can't think of another country that's further away from the United States of America than Argentina. It's literally at the bottom of South America in the Southern Hemisphere, and we're all the way up here at the top. I don't know how that's America First.
Okay, I'm not going to judge you for your geography there, MTG, but I'm just saying. So I've broken down this story quite a bit, and just a real summary. Scott Bessent, who, by the way, MAGA, in case you guys didn't know, Scott Bessent was a George Soros protege, like an apprentice, like somebody that George Soros admired, who basically wanted him to take over his funds later in life. That's Scott Bessent. So his friends in the investment community are heavily invested in Argentina. So this $40 billion is to prop up their economy so that his friends don't lose billions of dollars, basically saying, fuck you to American farmers. And then MTG's like, what the fuck are we doing? Why $40 billion? So that's one part of that story. I don't understand. I don't understand why our friends on the right just are unwilling to call out that blatant corruption. They will sit there and just say, we needed to save Argentina. But for years, all we heard was, I don't want to spend a dime. I don't want to spend a dime on any other foreign country. So this was an interesting moment, again, as prices spike. So this is the president talking about all this great stuff that he's doing for the economy with a nice little sound captured by Fox News, of all things.
And everything else has been coming down. Groceries are down. The price of things are down. And A few moments later.
And last but not least, one trend and true brand is making a big comeback as consumers tighten their wallets. And here it is, Hamburger Helper. A mix of mac and cheese and ground beef is seeing a surge in sales.
So when you're losing your little safe spaces, when you're going out and lying to the American public about how the prices are down for shit, when they're not, and you got Kayleigh McEnany dusting up. First of all, I've never met a box of Hamburger Helper that I don't like. Like I shouldn't eat it, but I would for sure. Like who wouldn't just devour a bowl of Hamburger Helper? That to me is starting to be indicative of the cracking that we're starting to see in those safe spaces, right? So you're getting people like, wait, $40 billion? Why are we sending $40 billion to Argentina when our own farmers are suffering, right? Why are we doing these kinds of things? Why are we sending them 20 billion and then 20 billion more? Why are we having these weird investors invest in the East Wing when you said you weren't going to touch the building and then you just demolished the entire thing? Why are we doing that? Why are we telling the American people we have a solution to healthcare without offering a solution to healthcare, and yet you're going to lie about the use of the nuclear option and lie about whether or not undocumented immigrants have access to healthcare, because they don't. But instead, you're just going to double down on it because you don't think your voters are smart enough to figure it out. That's what you're banking on. Instead, they're going to go into their spaces. They're going to gather around their cauldrons, and they're going to find some way to blame Dems. Now, I wish you could do this exercise. Like, I wish we could use the zapper pen from Men in Black, right? And then everybody does not know who Donald Trump is, don't know what the Democratic Party is, we don't know what the Republican Party is, and we just present the evidence. So I fly in. I've got the dark sunglasses, so I'm the one that survived the zapping. And I would sit people down. This is part of why I want to go on the road. By the way, hashtag do something tour. When we go out on the road to talk to people, I would like people to have been zapped by the pen to say, okay, do you care about the cost of healthcare? Yeah, I absolutely do. Totally do. Cool. Do you think we should be sending $40 billion to a country that is crippling, because we're that investment in a foreign country, it's going to cripple the domestic cattle industry and the U.S. beef industry? Do you think we should be doing that? Hell no. Why the fuck would we be doing that? Yeah, I totally agree. Do you think we should continue to fund programs that don't benefit the middle class? Like, do you think we should be cutting funding for healthcare and cutting funding for so poor people can't eat? Hell no. Why would we do shit like that? Because we have been so conditioned from a confirmation bias perspective, right? That people, no matter what it is, because listen, bias exists everywhere, but the people on the right have been conditioned so much to believe that anything that is in opposition to Trump is bad for America. It's not patriotic. It's delusion. It's nationalistic. It's not patriotic. You cannot claim to care about America. You cannot claim to be America first. You cannot do it and live in this delusion that Trump can just do whatever the fuck he wants at the expense of the middle class. I don't understand why people will continue to jump on that bandwagon. It's wild to me. But you made your bed. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm all right. On the topic of messaging, because this was dropped in my lap and I had your mod send it to you. I don't know if you went over it while I was getting clocked into work. Little fun fact, under the Hatch Act, civil servants, while in the operation of their duties, are not allowed to make partisan statements, right? I can't sit there and say, hey, you're not getting paid because of the Republicans or whatever. Can't say it either direction.
Correct.
So let me read two statements real fast and tell me which one is partisan. I understand and appreciate your frustration with the situation. I know that it is very difficult to feed your family without the SNAP benefits you're entitled to, and I am so sorry that you're faced with this burden. Unfortunately, the problem is at the federal government level, not Pennsylvania. because the federal government is not giving Pennsylvania or any other state money to pay SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Pennsylvania has no way of giving SNAP benefits to anyone until the shutdown ends and the federal government sends us money. If you need food, I can connect you with food banks and other resources. This is statement 1. Here's statement 2. Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Bottom line, the well is run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We're approaching an inflection point for the Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable amongst us can receive critical nutrition assistance. Which one of those is partisan?
Number 2, and it's on the USDA's website.
Correct. One is the statement that the USDA gave me, the caseworker, to say to a client. The first one, that's what they gave us to say. The second is the one directly on their website.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to unpack in that statement. There's a lot to unpack in that statement. One, that sentence, Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund the food stamp program, paints a picture that there were 12 resolutions specifically for SNAP and SNAP alone, which is just a lie.
Correct.
Then it mentions healthcare for illegal immigrants, also not a thing. And the gender part, also not a thing.
Not a thing.
So the official statement of the department that I work for on their website is just a partisan, ridiculously lie-filled statement, whereas me, the caseworker, was fed a completely nonpartisan. And because they fed it to me, that's the statement they could have put on the website because they wrote it. Sure.
And that's I mean, it's not just the FDA. It's also HUD had something similar on their website. Most government agencies are doing the same thing now because, again, the federal government run by the Trump administration is doing the exact same thing, attempting to say that this is on the Democrats. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans are discussing using the nuclear option. Make it make sense.
And the point I'm making, though, is when I say, hey, it's a federal government problem, using the script they give me, that's going to drive my clients to where? The federal government, which means they're going to go to the USC website and they're going to see a contrary thing to what I said. Because what I said, because that's what they told me to say, is very specifically nonpartisan, which not only just turns into me directing them to propaganda, it diminishes their faith in civil servants like myself. Because now they're going to go, why didn't he just say that?
Absolutely. It's a great point. If you're getting messaged as to what to say to the people that you service and serve, then why wouldn't the message be the same? Because they think their voters are dumb.
And that harms us down the road. This is why I like a lot of times discussion about SNAP when I'm on my panels in the evenings. I've actually flipped the entire SNAP conversation. I actually don't talk about 12 million people starving anymore. I allow other people to do that but me. Because I'm very good at translating to conservative, is I go, hey, what do you think happens if we remove $8.1 billion from an industry? Do you think prices will go up or stay the same or go down? And go up. I'm like, great, because we're about to remove $8.1 billion from the entire grocery industry. That's going to affect every part of the supply chain, which if you're worried about inflation, removing $8.1 billion from a mandatory industry, everybody needs to eat, means that that grocery store, that farmer, the trucking company, that food distributor are going to have to raise prices because they've just lost $8.1 billion industry-wide. So if you're like, man, I don't like inflation, you should not be in favor of a SNAP freeze. You should not be celebrating a SNAP freeze because a lot of times they will talk about well, that person should get a job. Great, whatever. Don't care about that take. You need to recognize that the loss of SNAP doesn't just affect the SNAP recipient, it affects everybody because you can't remove $8.1 billion from an industry without it impacting everybody.
That's a great point. It's the entire chain. You're right. It's the entire chain from the growers to the retailers to the wholesalers to everybody. It's literally removing $8 billion in that entire industry, which again causes everybody's cost to go up. Everybody's.
Yep.
Great point.
This is my point.
I appreciate you. Thank you, man. Thanks for being here, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
See ya. Bye. It's a great point. And this is again because the administration knows that their voters will not look past the headline. So again, hearts in the chat for independent journalists and for people like Crow who can share the information. Case in point, all right, when the president says this.
The only cost that's really up is beef, and the fake news only wants to talk about beef. And what I did is I made it possible for those people to survive. They're incredible people, but they were being decimated by other countries, and I didn't want that to happen. So prices are way down, groceries are down, everything's down, energy's way down. Even interest rates with a bad chairman of the Fed. He's terrible. He's a fool. But even interest rates are down. So our country has never done better. We're going to take in, I think, $21 trillion this year. No country has ever taken in more than 3. And we're going to take in $21 trillion of investments because of the tariffs.
What?
If we didn't have tariffs, we would be a mess. We would be a national security problem.
Oh.
And
okay, so the number has gone from 3 trillion to 9 trillion to 11 trillion to 17 trillion to 20 trillion to 21 trillion. The number just keeps flying around. So we did what we always do. We look for the information. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics is the agency that is responsible for tracking this information. Okay? So the BLS, again, you heard what the president said. The prices for everything except beef is down across the board. Is that true or is that not true? The BLS reports that for the 12-month ending in September, the all items consumer price index rose 3%, up from 2.9% in August. Excluding food and energy, core inflation, also ended plus 3% year over year. On a monthly basis, the CPI rose 0.3% in September. Energy inflation. Energy. Again, listen to the sound. Hang on one second. Just listen to what he had to say. This is your boy.
The only cost that's really up is beef, and the fake news only wants to talk about beef. And what I did is I made it possible for those people to survive. They're incredible people, but they were being decimated by other countries, and I didn't want that to happen. So prices are way down, groceries are down, everything's down, energy's way down.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Energy is actually up 2.8%. Food inflation is up 3.1%. Again, all of these stats are reported from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the agency that tracks this stuff. Okay? So the whole beef thing, right? Where's the beef? The subsidies, let me back up a second. The situation with fund or bailing out the Argentinian economy, okay? And the impact that has on domestic beef industry is not going to help American farmers at all, because it's going to drop the prices. When you put more items into the chain, it's going to lower prices. So you're not helping the American farmer at all. Tariffs are killing them. You're going to have to bail them out again. And the farmers that I've been hearing around the TikTok streets and through interviews are like, why the fuck are you doing this shit? Like, why are you doing this? So again, the claim about all these costs being down, MAGA, you're being lied to again. Do you want to believe the BLS statistics? You would say no, because Donald Trump fired somebody who's reporting on the data. Now that his hand-picked person is running the same organization, the numbers still say that prices are going up. Who are you going to blame now? Again, energy inflation up 2.8%. Rents, shelter inflation, an owner's equivalent rent rose 0.1% in September. 3% inflation rate is relatively moderate, but above what many central bank target levels, meaning that they want that inflation rate to be between 2 and 3%. It's up. It's up. Inflation is up. Moderate inflation suggests some breathing room, but core inflation staying sticky at 3% indicates underlying cost pressure. Labor, rents, services. I can't help you with that. I don't have a hotline to BLS. I don't have that. I can't help you with that. This impacts all of us. Tariffs are a tax. We are paying more than we should be because of his trade war. That is it. That is the entire fucking game. The next numbers will likely come out, again, because the government shut down. It was already delayed a week. We know that it's up 3%. So it's going to go over 3% outside of the window. So he sits there and just lies to you guys over and over and over and over and over again. And he got so triggered over the weekend because of the commercial that the Canadian government ran, Ontario in particular, during the World Series. So we're going to revisit it a little bit, all right? We're going to revisit what Donald Trump's claim was and what Ronald Reagan actually said.
Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't.
At first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity.
Okay. So, again, this is what the president had to say about what Ronald Reagan just said. And just listen to how desperate he is to try to win this debate that he's just losing, not only in the court of public opinion, but just from a factual perspective. Let me just bring this up. Hang on one second.
Commercial. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't. And I guess it was AI or...
AI. He wants his voters to believe that Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and he is so desperate to get them to believe that he now wants to say that Ronald Reagan's speech that we played in its entirety last week and was used in that commercial, and I just played you a snippet from it, is AI.
They cheated badly. Canada got caught cheating on a commercial. Can you believe it?
Here it is again. Just listen to this.
No, they cheated on a commercial. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't. And I guess it was AI or something. They cheated badly. Canada got caught cheating on a commercial. Can you believe it?
Can you fucking believe that? Like, cheating on a commercial. And again, this is the statement he made.
Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't.
At first, when
Ronald Reagan did not love tariffs. 1981, this is a quote from Reagan. I have always opposed protectionism. We must try to expand world trade, not restrict it. Criticizing Congress's steel tariffs in 1988. Protectionism is a policy which ultimately hurts the American consumer and the economy. Does that sound like somebody who likes tariffs? Once again, Mr. President, what was that you said?
Reagan loved tariffs. And
what was that again? I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I caught that.
Reagan loved tariffs. And
He did what? What did Ronald Reagan love? Hold on, what was that?
Ronald Reagan loved tariffs.
No, he didn't. And because Donald Trump believes that his voters are dumb, he's going to tell them that that was AI. He just told his voters that that commercial where Ronald Reagan was obviously saying, no, I don't believe in this bullshit. Protectionism is bad. It hurts our economy. It hurts our relationships across the world. He said that in that address. Canada used it in a commercial to remind people what's at stake here. And because Donald Trump despises his voters so much, he's been able to fool them for a decade now. He's going to now say that it was AI. The speech that didn't even make its way to YouTube until like 2007, the speech that goes back to 1986, the transcript is in the congressional record, but his voters will believe it. And friends, I guarantee you, okay? I'll bet you anything you want that you're going to see people in the TikTok streets making that claim. That video was AI. Yep. That's how bad it is. When you are that desperate to try to convince your voters that the policies of Ronald Reagan, who was anti-protectionism, anti-tariff, in support of free trade, this is what happens. Your entire economic agenda is based on tariffs. The entire thing. Every single time he opens his fucking mouth, this case that goes before the Supreme Court to determine whether or not he's correct in his assertions about IEEPA falls flat on his face. And we know that because he opened his mouth again. Shocker. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on. There is so much fucking advertisement bullshit on Truth Social. It blows me away. It is literally just an ad. It's one big ad. Hang on, let me find it. And I'm gonna read to you something about acetaminophen again. Tylenol. Okay, you just heard what he said, and this is a Truth Social post. Canada was caught. Oh, I'll do this. I haven't done this to you guys in a while.
Canada was caught red-handed putting up a fraudulent advertisement on Ronald Reagan's speech on tariffs. The Reagan Foundation said that they created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address and did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. The Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. The sole purpose of this fraud was Canada's hope that the United States Supreme Court will come to their rescue on tariffs that they have used for years to hurt the United States. Now, the U.S. is able to defend itself against high and overbearing Canadian tariffs, and those from the rest of the world as well. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs for purposes of national security and the economy, but Canada said he didn't. No, Reagan's words said he didn't, sir. Their advertisement was to be taken down immediately, but they let it run last night during the World Series, knowing that it was a fraud. Because of their serious misrepresentation of the facts and hostile act, I am increasing the tariff on Canada by 10% over and above what they're paying now. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Now, again, the argument that he is using in front of the Supreme Court for his constitutional approach to tariffing is because it's a national security threat. We have to use, the president is invoking IEEPA, International Economic Emergency Powers Act, The president is invoking IEEPA because of national security concerns. So, what the president says, their advertisement was to be taken down immediately, but they let it run last night knowing it was a fraud. Because of their serious misrepresentation of the facts and a hostile act, I'm increasing the tariffs. That's the ball game right there. The question is, what is the Supreme Court going to do? Because that's the ball game. Because he responds to things that he doesn't like. When his lies get called out every single day, he is too stupid to know any better. So when his feelings get hurt, he responds with a tantrum. That's it. That's it. He can just continue to blow up his entire economic argument. And I will remind you, everyone, the entire economic agenda of this administration is more tax cuts for the rich and tariffs. That's it. There is no other plan. There is no other plan. And to fund said tax cuts, which has driven up our deficit, he's going to use healthcare, SNAP benefits, ACA subsidies, USAID funding, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the Supreme Court going to do? Because they're going to hear the case. I don't know. I don't know. But again, if you want to prop Ronald Reagan up as this conservative voice, then you can, sure. But to say that they lied about what Reagan said, and or they made up a fake ad, or that it was AI, or the president saying Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, no, he did not. He did not love tariffs. He said, no bueno on the tariffs. No. Okay. But that's fine. Nothing to see here, right? It's totally fine. A little bit more from on the ballroom from Stephen Colbert. Actually, no, this is about the $230 million that the DOJ is being that it's attempting to get from the DOJ. Okay, this is Stephen Colbert and Stephen Colbert Unchained, because he's going to be off the air next spring.
Donald Trump has always sued everyone and everything at all times everywhere. Well, some of those claims are against the Department of Justice, who, during the Biden administration and before, made the fatal mistake of doing their jobs. And his claims, he got a bunch of claims. Some of his claims are over investigations into his Russia ties and the seizure of hundreds of classified documents from Mar-a-Lago's highly secure guest bathroom. Okay, he didn't like that. He got really mad. So, okay. Now, of course, after he became president, all the cases against him were dropped. But that's not enough. The man wants his money. Don't make him put his rings on. Specifically, Trump wants the DOJ to pay him $230 million, which, from the sound of this audience, is obviously ridiculous. But since he won the election, technically, as president, he could now, in effect, order the government to pay him.
Correct.
Well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, if you're going to do that, why stop at $230 million? Why not just let him go to Fort Knox, lose the pants, and go Scrooge McDuck into a pile of gold? Just like that. Now, if you're saying a judge would never allow that, oh, you sweet, stupid child. This don't go before no judge. They're administrative claims, which would be settled by senior officials in the Department of Justice who are all appointed by Trump, some of whom actually defended him in these cases that he's suing the Department of Justice over. His own lawyers decide whether he wins. It's like that classic drama, 12 Angry Men Who Were All at My Bachelor Party. This is so crazy, even Trump is aware of how insane the situation is. Last week, this was just last week, right? Referring to the initial lawsuits that he filed back before he was president, He said this.
I have a lawsuit that was doing very well, and when I became president, I said, I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know, how do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right? And I don't know what to do with the lawsuit. It's a great lawsuit, and now I won. It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks bad. You sue you, and you get to decide which one of yous wins. I'm guessing you do. That's some kind of like endless loop of corruption, like a Mobius grift. It's I think they call it the circle of jerk. Now, Governor Carter.
It's true. We have to laugh, but he's suing himself, and it's not subjected to a judge. I had to look into that. This is an entirely administrative decision, right? Entirely administrative. If this gets pursued and the Department of Justice hands over $230 million of taxpayer money, there's not going to be a peep from Hardcore MAGA in this app. They will attempt to try to find spin connected to what they called lawfare, right? That they called the weaponization of government. Meanwhile, the Trump DOJ responding to Donald Trump's demands to indict James Comey, indicted. To indict Letitia James, indicted. To indict John Bolton, indicted. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Exactly, girl with two dogs. And yet we can't feed people. Exactly, Kipper. Like, we can't feed people. We can't provide WIC. We have to cut subsidies for the ACA. And we can't feed people. Exactly, Kipper. Like, that is where we are right now. The biggest, it's a fucking movie. I mean, it's a fucking movie to have this level of corruption that exists right in front of us, and tens of millions of Americans do not give a fuck. Don't give a fuck. How can anybody be okay with that? Every single day we find something. You know, we had the story of his relationship with the World Liberty Financial, his own crypto firm. Then we find out about Don Jr. and Steve Witkoff negotiating access to NVIDIA chips. Hey, buddy, come here. We find that level of corruption. Then we're like, holy fuck. Then we find a Qatari jet, $400 million donated. We think about that level of corruption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In the ballroom, investors, angel investors, anonymous people that we don't know of, writing checks to pay for the military, names that we don't even know, right? And then here we are. He is suing himself, and the decision ultimately will rest with the DOJ. So if he orders Pam Bondi to pay him, what are people going to say about that? Like, can we stop saying that fascism is on the rise? What is this? What is this? Like, how do we describe it other than what it is? It is bona fide fucking corruption at the highest level. $230 million of taxpayer dollars to pay him back for what? He was investigated and indicted. Period. Full stop. It blows me away. And you've got Mike Johnson, who is propping him up. Here's the sound on that. Jen Psaki reporting on this.
It's now the third day since the New York Times published their bombshell reporting that Donald Trump is demanding his own Justice Department pay him $230 million of likely taxpayer money. Wild story. Got lots of attention. And here was Mike Johnson's response to that story the day it broke on Tuesday.
I'm not going to comment on something I haven't read, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It's a short article, Mike. Okay, read it. Get back to us. Now here he is 24 hours later.
I don't know the details about that. I've just read it. I didn't talk with him about that.
Okay, sure. Well, Mike Johnson just needs a little more time. Surely by today, though, he'd know a little more. Don't you think?
I'm not trying to dodge the question. I haven't had time to get the details. Okay, that's still on my list of things to do.
Right.
It's still on my to-do list. I sure would love to see that Mike Johnson to-do list.
Me too. Me too.
Because from what we've seen him publicly doing over the past 40 hours, it seems to look a little bit like this. Go on TV. Go on TV again. Tweet a little. Keep House Republicans away from Washington. How about some more TV? Did I miss anything? Surely there's got to be some downtime in one of those green rooms to read a short story. Either way, hopefully you'll get through the rest of that to-do list soon because the American taxpayers have a lot of questions. We'll keep you posted.
So again, think about that, right? Speaker of the House, second in line of the presidency. The House is not in session. I don't think, from a calendar day perspective, I think the first day that they're back is tomorrow. And who knows what they're going to do then, right? You got Republicans in the Senate ready to negotiate. Republicans in the Senate saying, look, we're going to use the nuclear option here. Where's the negotiation? Where's the president in all of this? How come he's not demanding this? He could panel a commission right now. He could say, you guys, we have to solve fucking high school. We have to solve fucking healthcare. It just shows that he doesn't give a fuck. Doesn't give a fuck. 78 million people who voted for this guy. He doesn't give a fuck about any one of you. He is using you to enrich himself. He is using you and your racism and your bigotry and your transphobia and your homophobia and your misogyny, etc., etc., etc. He's appealing to the worst of your own character so he can enrich himself. I'm just going to tell my voters about transgender for everyone. I'm going to tell my voters about brown people bad. I'm going to use every fucking racist dog whistle there possibly is. Chicago, Detroit, inner city, blah fucking blah, etc., 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 etc. As he's cashing the fucking check. As he's cashing the check, as he's cashing your taxpayer dollars. Remember,
smart people don't like me.
Again, you should absolutely not accept this. There's people on the left who are calling this shit out every single day. And I can guarantee you, myself included, do I think nepotism should exist in politics? Abso-fucking-lutely not. But it does. But for anybody on the right who are losing your fucking mind over Hunter's cock, that's a different conversation though, whatever. Not judging. Good for you, buddy. Hunter selling artwork. Phone calls that Hunter brought his dad into when he was working for Burisma. You guys lost your fucking mind for years over that shit. And in fact, your own investigators, the people that you called in, your leadership, that you called in to be expert witnesses, even debunked your own bullshit. And you guys still lost your fucking mind, and you're silent right now. You're silent over this. You're silent over the Qatari jet. Same president who in 2017 called the Qatari government sponsors of terror. And now we're taking jets from them. And now we're giving them access to NVIDIA chips. And now we're working with the Qatari royal family to get investments into your son's crypto business. And now suing his own Department of Justice, and he'll get $230 million. Where are you? Where are you? Why are you not calling that out? This is why we tell you that you're in a cult. This is why. Because if you truly believed what you've been spewing for years about the deep state and about corruption, you would be losing your fucking mind. Period. You can't point to anything other than what should be right in front of you. Look at Jake looking for attention. Look at Look at this, guys. Look at Jake looking for attention. Jake's one of the people that I was just talking about. Jake's one of those people. Jake's one of those people who's been indoctrinated. Jake's one of those people who's blind. Jake's one of those people who doesn't give a shit about all the things that he complained about for years. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for you, Jake. It's really unfortunate. I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that. Okay, let's talk about this, because this was a wild statement. We're going to add, we can add, we've got corruption covered. Let's just add war crimes.
Declaration of war.
Well, I don't think we're good.
Hold on. Let's just add war crimes, okay?
Just ask for a declaration of war.
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them.
Okay.
They're going to be like dead. Okay. Yeah.
And the comments are wild, right? The comments are just wild on that video. They just don't get it. I know they're after oil. I know they're after oil. They're after the ability to declare war in an attempt to try to say we can't have elections because we're at war, right? So that was Donald Trump. And then Rand Paul, who's been critical about this particular thing in general, went on Fox News over the weekend. And this is what he had to say about that.
Senators Rand Paul and Tim Kaine. Senators, welcome to Fox News Sunday. Great to have you.
Good morning. Great to be with you. Thanks, Shannon.
All right, so let's start somewhere where I think the two of you agree, and that's on some of the last bit of what Lucas was reporting on there about those strikes out in the sea. The president says there's going to be more information and briefing coming to Capitol Hill. Here's what he said Thursday.
The land is going to be next, and we may go to the Senate, we may go to the Congress and tell them about it. But I can't imagine they'd have any problem with it. I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
Right.
All right, so I'll start with you, Senator Paul. What do you need to hear in a briefing? What questions do you have?
It's not so much about a briefing, but we haven't had a briefing. To be clear, we've got no information. I've been invited to no briefing. But a briefing is not enough to overcome the Constitution. The Constitution says that when you go to war, Congress has to vote on it. And during a war, then, there's a lower rules for engagement. People do sometimes get killed without due process. But the drug war or the crime war has typically been something we do through law enforcement. And so far, they have alleged that these people are drug dealers. No one said their name. No one said what evidence. No one said whether they're armed. And we've had no evidence presented. So at this point, I would call them extrajudicial killings. And this is akin to what China does, to Iran does with drug dealers. They summarily execute people without presenting evidence to the public. So it's wrong.
All right, here's what James Story, by the way, was the top diplomat in Venezuela under the first Trump term, stayed around for a little bit of the Biden administration as well. Here's what he said to Politico. He says they've learned to live with sanctions, meaning the Venezuelans, over time. Now, this is the real possibility of use of force. That is intended, I'm certain, to rattle those closest to Maduro, encouraging them to make the decision to make a change within the government. Senator Kaine, he says the niceties are not going to work with them. It's this use of force that's actually going to change the conversation and their action.
Well, okay, so the Trump administration or this particular witness is saying this is about regime change, which that is not something that a president should be deciding on his own, especially since America has often gotten regime change very, very wrong when we have decided to do it. Often it leads to more instability, more migration. But I agree with my colleague, Senator Paul. If we're going to be in
commercial.
A war, whether it's against boats in Nicaragua chosen off a secret list that the president won't share with Congress or the public, or a land invasion in Venezuela, it should be done
following a debate and a vote in Congress. The Ford strike group that's being deployed has an awful lot of Virginians. They shouldn't be sent in harm's way unless Congress has the guts to vote about whether a war is in the national interest.
Well, and Senator Paul, I know you said this isn't about a briefing, but would there be some level of information? Because I've heard other members say they are convinced, they have been told that they can specifically identify these boats, the people on board, and the cargo on board to the level that they're comfortable. So, Senator Paul, do you think that that needs to be a public vetting, or if lawmakers are provided that information, that's enough for you?
Won't be enough, but at the very least it should be revealed. There's at least 2 boats. One boat was said to be in distress and trying to get back to land that was bombed. That was said to be a fisherman. I don't know because I don't have any of the evidence. There's also an anomaly in the sense that one of the boats where a bunch were killed, there were 2 that survived. If they were drug dealers, why wouldn't we prosecute them, present evidence of the drugs, show the arms they were about to invade us with, or show us something? Instead, they're being sent back to Colombia and to Ecuador without a trial, and no one's sort of trying to find out, well, who is the one behind this massive conspiracy to invade America with drugs? They're just sending them back home. So in the one instance, you're killed on sight. On the other instance, if you're captured, we just say, oh, well, we're just going to send you back to your country. Doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me turn to domestic matters.
Okay, so that's Republican Libertarian Rand Paul and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, and they both agree. Like, there needs to be information. You can't just indiscriminately take out boats. You have no idea. The claim that they're coming from Venezuela to go to the U.S., I forget how far it is, but the size of the boats that they're using, they couldn't get that far. They're war crimes. They're war crimes, and they're calling it out. So how far does this administration have to go until somebody stops them? And who is it? Yeah, Jake, of course, Trump 2028, right, Jake? Jake, I don't even know why you're here, Jake. You don't want to learn anything. You just want attention. Believe me, our chat will give you plenty of attention. Don't you worry. Like, when are more people like Rand Paul going to come out? You're starting to see more and more Republican elected officials, especially senators, at least stand up a little bit. But how far does this have to go? These are war crimes. And I think what Rand Paul said there, 2 people survived one of these attacks, and we're just going to send them back to their country? Why are we not prosecuting them if they're drug dealers? Isn't that the whole point? Why are we not doing that? And I couldn't find this other interview. Rand Paul said that in his conversations with the Coast Guard, they say 1 in 4 of the boats that they find in these situations aren't even headed to the U.S. They're likely going to Trinidad and Tobago. And 1 in 4 have nothing to do with drugs of any kind. So we've taken out like 6 or 7, which means we are approaching 2 that have, just based on basic numbers, we have 2 that have nothing to do with this at all. So why is it that we are okay with this? We aren't. Why are people okay with this? This indiscriminate use of the U.S. military? I think it's 8 now. So there you go. So 2 of the 8 based on math. So I don't know, but every single day there's another story that is just worse and worse. We're literally committing war crimes because, in my theory, the president and the Republicans are so desperately afraid of retaining power, because if they lose power, especially in the House, there are going to be investigation after investigation after investigation after investigation. And Donald Trump, this is my prediction, Donald Trump will invoke pardon powers for Pam Bondi, for Kash Patel, for Pete Hegseth, for anybody and everybody connected to it. He will give them pardons because they are committing war crimes. We had a high-ranking, might have been in the Navy, the Marine Corps, I forget, a high-ranking military official that just resigned recently because of this. You're committing war crimes. So again, I would ask active duty military, remember your oath, please. Remember your oath. That's all I can say. Yeah, just like the Biden auto pen. Okay. So speaking of Kash Patel, this was quite a moment. I want you guys to know that they have found the Antifa headquarters.
We've been covering all the out-of-control Antifa protests in places like Portland for months now, and we exposed this safe house last night that's just a 2-minute walk away from the ICE facility. Is the FBI looking into the funding of all of these kind of support groups and networks that are making this a constant disruption and threat to ICE possible?
I'm glad you asked that. One of the cornerstones of my leadership at the FBI has been simple. Follow the money. Not just for narco-terrorism, not just for international terrorism, not just for human trafficking.
So again, it's like a first floor apartment that they claim to be the Antifa headquarters. This is what desperation looks like in politics. Okay, this is what desperation looks like. Anything and everything that they can try to do. It's not just one thing now. It's not just one thing. It's not only is it the Epstein files, not only is it the ballroom, not only is it the economy crashing, not only is it is ICE agents illegally detaining individuals, not only is it the war crimes being committed on people that are in the Caribbean, not only is the continued threats of allowing, the IDF and Bibi Netanyahu to do whatever the hell they want to do in Gaza, not only is he bending the knee for Vladimir Putin again, it's all of it. And you got to find an enemy to bring your base back around. So again, it's the Antifa headquarters that the pictures that they're showing in the story looks like the front of an Apple store. I mean, come on. Come on. But nothing to see here, right? Nope. Not a thing. And then I'll give you a little, before we get in some more stories. Again, friends, we're going to go to 11:30 today. I've got an appointment I have to run to, but until then, continue to like and share the live. We're at 300,000K. We've been hovering around 1,600 people the entire time. Can we get that number up to 400,000, please? And don't forget, we are crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel, you can do so. All the various appetizers are at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. And please don't forget about the items in the merch store. There's a lot of really cool stuff in the merch store. Please head on over there. And thank you to Sam and to Eve and to Erica for getting that off the ground, because there's a lot of cool shit in there. And join our Discord. This is I hope you haven't had your breakfast yet, but I'll play this. I'll play this for you anyway.
To visit Argentina?
I do. I would love to. I'm just a little busy. I would love to. I'd love to go to Argentina. I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. My legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his. I'm not sure it would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit. You won't see in a bathing suit sitting on a beach in Argentina, falling down, not being able to lift a 3-ounce chair, meant for old people to lift, and he couldn't lift it, so he had a problem. He spent too much time on a beach. Somebody told him that he looked good in a bathing suit. And you'd see this guy on the beach all the time. I never quite understood it.
Okay. I don't even know what to say about that. Yeah. Okay. So, Sarah Jacobs was on CNN Newsnight. She is debating one of her colleagues, Republican Jeff Hurd. And these are the kinds of conversations that I want people to have. Okay, this is how you call it out, by reminding them exactly what's at stake. So this is about healthcare. And, well, here you go.
It's a resolution that Democrats have supported in the past.
In your district alone, Jeff, in your district alone, if we do nothing about these ACA tax credits, 33,000 people are going to lose healthcare just in your district.
33,000 people in your district, Jeff. And what are you going to do about that? The answer is you're not doing a damn thing because you're a cuck and you don't give a fuck about your own citizens. I've got a little bit more on things on that particular topic. I'm going to play you some sound too from Pete Hegseth when he was the original Pete Hegseth, when he was the drunkard on Fox News harassing women. We'll play that in a second. This was, don't forget, our president's overseas. You guys probably saw the double hand job dance that he does, right? You know, the cow milking, the vertical cow milking. I call it the double hand job. And he did that when he landed in Malaysia. And yeah, dude, do me a solid. Don't fucking dance. Like we don't need to see the double hand job. You know, I won't go there. We don't need to see that. Okay. We just definitely don't need to see that again. Okay. But again, these are the claims that he continues to make as people in our country are starving. Here you go.
Critical minerals and other industries, the United States is having its golden age. Last year, we were a country that was doing very poorly under a different semi-leadership. I don't even call it a leadership. But this year, we're doing numbers that nobody ever thought it was possible for any country to do. We'll be, at the end of my first year, over $20 trillion worth of investment into the United States. There's no country anywhere that's ever done anything close to that. The United States last year, for the 4 years, it was announced, did less than $1 trillion, and we're going to be doing over 20. That's quite a difference.
Just more lies. There is no evidence. I was curious. So I was like, all right, let me take a look at that. Is there any truth to that at all? So January 23rd, he made a claim at the World Economic Forum in Davos. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America. If you don't make your product in America, you'll have to pay a tariff. He also claimed billions and billions adding up to trillions of dollars in outside investment into the U.S. The claim is vague, billions and billions without specific numbers or any verifiable breakdowns. On April 2nd, an official White House fact sheet and speech, he declared a national emergency over trade. This is IEPA. This is where the whole thing started. And claimed that, remember, that was Liberation Day. And claimed that tariffs and the trade deficit strategy would generate trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt. In the Rose Garden, he linked tariffs, new investments, and the ideas of reducing U.S. debt via the incoming money. Economic analysts are skeptical. While there are investment announcements, many are commitments rather than actual flows, and the math is not transparently provided. That's reported by the AP. On April 29th of this year, the White House published a release, quote, 100 days of investment, $5 trillion in new U.S.-based investments. The $5 trillion is still a headline figure. Many of the announced investments are commitments, intents, rather than anything executed, and there's certainly no capital flow. October 6th, in news reporting, Trump claimed we've already secured commitments of $17 trillion coming in under his administration. The Associated Press notes that the White House website lists only $8 trillion in commitments, and that many of those cited sums appear to be grossly exaggerated without definitive commitments. So $17 trillion that he publishes, the White House itself publishes 8. No concrete examples of any of that, only commitments. We had that famous hot mic moment with Mark Zuckerberg, caught on hot mic saying, I just had to make up a number. I didn't know what you wanted me to say. So again, and then in August, he claimed that foreign nations like the UK, China, the EU, and Japan are paying trillions of dollars to the U.S. Treasury as part of historic trade deals. There is no evidence that the U.S. Treasury received any of that money. Any of it. Continues, though, because now he's talking about $20 trillion, $17 trillion, $21 trillion. There is no evidence of any of that whatsoever. It is just a blowhard trying to convince people that we are brimming with success. He just makes shit up. And people in our chat are reminding other people in our chat of that fact. Would you rather have the information correct, or would you rather just allow it to be, okay, so Jake, you can request. You said that I mute and block people that don't agree with him. Prove me wrong then, Jake. Send a request. I'll bring you up and we'll have a conversation. So you said that I would mute you and block you, that I don't agree with him. So that you've made that statement publicly. So prove me wrong, or prove that. Prove it. Go ahead. You won't request, Jake. You know you won't. I'd be stunned if you did. I would welcome you with open arms. We can cuddle. I don't think you'll do it though. Because I just want to know why you wouldn't. You're not muted, Jake. You're right here. You're not muted. You're in the chat. You're not muted. If you want to come up and talk, just hit the multi-guest and I'll bring you up. Okay? Thanks. So you run around the country, you run around the globe, and you tell people that there's $20 trillion. No, I didn't. No, I did not. Maybe one of my mods did, but I didn't mute you. But you're here now. Come on up. I can't send him an invite for some reason. He's not. Maybe he's private, but I can't send him an invite. Come on up. Just request. The crowd wants to hear from you, Jake. I don't know why you can't. Maybe you don't want to learn anything, Jake. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on you, but the door's open. I made cookies. They're right there. Okay? All right. A little bit more. Let me I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this really interesting investigation that is sort of, I'm not even sure which direction it's going to go in, but it's this conversation of, or this topic of Operation Arctic Frost. Before I play that, I think I have one more thing I wanted to play here, if I've got this sound right. Oh, yeah, this is great. Okay. I want to play this because I think it speaks directly to how desperate Mike Johnson is now. Let me first play you the sound from Triple K, because she's desperately trying to avert the eyes of the American people who watch her on the daily.
Democrat Catherine Clark said, "There are going to be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility seriously, but this is one of the few leverage points that we have." So again, think about that statement. We take the fact that the government is shut down very seriously, but this is one of the few leverage points we have. She's right. Caroline Leavitt is doing what? Saying that's an incorrect statement? Yeah, it's absolutely leverage. No doubt about it. It's the one point of leverage that the Democrats have. Here is a House Democrat who is admitting that they are using Americans who are suffering as political leverage.
No, that's your opinion, Caroline.
And Senator Bernie Sanders said, if you reopen the government, we lose our leverage.
That's correct. If you reopen the government without a deal on ACA subsidies and or Medicaid cuts, the Democrats lose their leverage. Bernie's absolutely right.
This is pure partisan games.
Is it really?
A senior Democrat aide said the party will not end the shutdown, quote, short of planes falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
That is truly a disturbing statement.
Is it, Caroline?
The Democrats clearly don't care about this suffering.
Really?
They care about playing political games against President Trump.
Got it.
And this dangerous charade needs to end.
So then why is it now that Republicans are contemplating using the nuclear option that they've had in their pocket all the time? Why is that, Caroline? So Mike Johnson doing the rounds. He is on a call. He's being interviewed by Caitlin Collins. This is from a couple of days ago. I think this is from Friday.
We heard from one of your members today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wrote this morning that on y'all's GOP conference call, she said Speaker Johnson said he has ideas and pages of policy, but did not say a single policy plan. She said, I find it unacceptable that Republicans are sitting on the sidelines doing nothing to fix this healthcare disaster that is leading many Americans into financial ruin. That's her words. She says you're sitting on the sidelines. What's your response to?
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Marjorie Taylor Greene's own words, calling out her own party, saying you've got nothing. You've not offered anything on health care. You heard the question that she just asked. Let me just start from the beginning again so we can play it so it's not played out of order. Here you go.
We heard from one of your members today, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wrote this morning that on y'all's GOP conference call, she said Speaker Johnson said he has ideas and pages of policy, but did not say a single policy plan. She said, I find it unacceptable that Republicans are sitting on the sidelines doing nothing to fix this healthcare disaster that is leading many Americans into financial ruin. That's her words. She says you're sitting on the sidelines. What's your response to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, bless her heart. Bless her heart. That's an absurd statement. Obviously, these conference calls are monitored by media, so we're not going to have actual strategy discussions on a line where you have hundreds of people listening in, because it would be reported on the front page. We have been working on this for a long time.
Have you?
We worked on it today. We've been working on it every day.
Have you?
Marjorie is not here in Washington. She's not on the committees of jurisdiction, and she's not involved in those specific discussions, but she will be soon, because they'll be related to all the House Republicans. This was always going to be a discussion and a debate that was going to be held in bipartisan fashion, by the way, in the month of October and November.
Really?
We know that the end of the year is the end of those COVID-era subsidies, and there's real reforms that have to be made if they're going to be extended. The Democrats knew that, the Republicans knew that, and it was always on the table for discussion. They have made that a red herring issue for now, again, because they wanted to show a fight against Trump. This is purely about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in New York trying to avoid a challenge from a Marxist candidate in their next re-election cycles. 100%.
There it is.
That's why they're doing a 180-degree turn and doing exactly the opposite of what they did as recently as March of this year.
Speaker, she's saying that the Republicans aren't doing anything to address the health care issue here that Democrats are arguing about. Are you saying that there is a Republican plan and you're just not talking about it?
No, I'm saying there's lots of discussion about it, but we don't relay it on a conference call with hundreds of people listening in. We have many ideas on how to bring down the cost of health care.
Really?
Continue to do that, and we've already demonstrated it in the Working Families Tax Cut. We had real reforms to Medicaid that you and I have discussed that have brought down the cost and saved about $185 billion for taxpayers and made the program stronger for the people that actually rely upon them, because we got ineligible enrollees off the program. We have many ideas like that to bring down the cost of health care and increase access and quality of care. And all that will be rolled out in the days ahead. We have plenty of time to do it. It was always going to be done at the last quarter of the year, and that's what we're waiting on. And that's why we need the Democrats in the Senate to stop this crazy gambit, do the right thing, and reopen the government so we can finish all that work.
So, Mike, you little bitch, you're caught in another fucking lie, my guy. It's convenient now that you have all these plans to address health care. You haven't talked about any changes to the health care system ever. Instead, you lie to the American people about waste, fraud, and abuse. You lie to the American people about illegals getting health care. You lie to the American people about SNAP benefits. You lie to the American people about why the government is shut down, and you expect us now, the convenient time that the government is shut down, to say, oh yeah, our plan all along was to address this in the last quarter of the year. Come on. See, people on the left, we're not dumb. Your voters are. They'll believe that. But you're just going to sit there and just continue to lie? Why? Do the right thing, Mike. Get back to fucking work. Hi, Jerry. How are you today?
I'm good.
What's on your mind?
Not only what you're saying, but I just heard and saw the video of Trump saying that all the Democrat programs are going to end because of the shutdown. So he's kind of glad the government is shut down. So does that mean that they can just get rid of the programs?
They can cut the federal workforce, basically just hamstringing the program. So they can't just they can't just end the program, like they can't just get rid of a department, for example, or an agency, but they can fire federal employees, which makes the agency basically inoperable.
Okay, but the budget is set up to give people assistance that can apply. So, I mean, apply and get qualified. So
Sure.
How do they get rid of the
you-
money that's in the budget for that?
Well, that's what appropriations are. So the way that there's 12 separate government agencies that are subjected to what's referred to as an appropriation. So the budget, there's appropriations committees. It's the Defense Appropriations Committee, it's the Commerce Appropriations Committee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all the ones that are responsible for coming up with the budget would look like. And then the appropriations then get passed oftentimes by what's referred to as an omnibus spending bill, which includes all the appropriations money for the allocation. So without that, the government can't fund. That's why the government shut down. So what he can do from the federal government perspective is, yes, those departments still have to be funded. You can't eliminate a department, but when you fire a whole bunch of federal workers, that then justifies cutting funding for those programs and those departments, which is where the Medicaid, Medicare funding cuts come from, where the SNAP benefits funding cuts come from, because there's no people to administer it.
But you still have people applying for them.
You do, but if you don't have the resources there to commit it or the people to execute on the plan, they'll just reallocate the money.
I mean, they could set up an AI if they don't have a real person.
Oh, you can't really do that, Jerry. You still have to be able to, why fire federal employees, right?
Huh. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. I mean, you need people. Like you could have a wedding of 150 guests coming, and you could have the catering all taken care of, but you don't have the wait staff or the service staff. How does that work? How does the food get out of people's plates?
Well, is there anyone else it would fall back on? Like, let's say, one department, let's say there's a strike, like when I used to work at UPS, there was a strike, and all the managers and, everybody came out of the woodwork to help do the work. So they didn't get behind on processing their packages. So is there anybody else they could throw into those positions?
Like who?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't they? It seems like they would have to, because how would they be able to? So in essence, what you're saying is if they fire all those people, then the applications will just be going into nothing land?
Well, I mean, what would they be applying to if the funding for those agencies are cut? So when you cut $800 billion from Medicaid, Medicare, there's no resources available to people, so they reduce the amount of money that can go out to people who are applying. So sure, you can still apply, but if there's no money there, then how do you get served?
Okay, so I guess in my mind I was thinking that there's money like allocated for salaries, and then there's money allocated for the people that actually qualify for the program. But you're saying it's all in just one big lump sum.
Well, I mean, federal government employees there's a difference between allocation to an agency, like the Defense Department, for example, that covers everything. That covers salaries, that covers what they refer to as SG&A, right? That covers salaries, it covers all the things that they need, right? Mm-hmm. And if that, for example, we didn't make any cuts to the Defense Department budget, we increased it. So when you cut funding to other programs, where does the money come from? It's not like most of us, when we have a savings account and then we can transfer our money from our savings account into a checking account. Mm-hmm. The spending is appropriated by Congress. They're the ones that determine. That's why people say that the House of Representatives holds a checkbook, because they do. Ultimately, they determine what agencies get funded and to what level. So if that does not get congressionally approved, then you just can't make it up. If there's no money, there's no money.
So people would go to a human resources office, and then they would say, there's no more SNAP benefits.
Theoretically, because SNAP benefits at the federal level gets funded out to the states. So if the feds can't, because the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP, is a federal program. Mm-hmm. So then the states would have to pick up the slack. If they don't have the money in their resource, what happens?
Yeah. Okay.
You get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for jumping in today. Have a good day.
You too.
We have to think about this in terms of big picture. What programs are being cut and why? That's the question mark. Mr. Logic, how are you today? Hello? Mr. Logic, are you there? Mr. Logic, are you there? Mr. Logic, going once. Mr. Logic, going twice. Mr. Logic, gone. Okay. All right. The biggest thing that I think that I would like to ask people to kind of consider here is what is the obvious priority of our current federal government? And that is to fund their tax cuts, which are driving our debt and driving our deficit, and to punish people that didn't like Donald Trump. Okay? Because we get the indictment against James Comey, and he's like, bring it on. We get the indictment against Tish James, and she's like, bring it on. Fine. If you don't like the fact that the president got indicted for his crimes alleged, then that's fine. You can disagree, but stop saying that the Biden administration was weaponizing government. They invested crimes, and what did we find? Crimes related to what Donald Trump did with documents, January 6th, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You had requested, Mr. Logic. I don't know if you had done that by accident, but you had requested and I brought you up. If you want to request again, I'd be happy to bring you back up. So it's just this weird little flex that they find themselves in now. Here's a little bit more sound from Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House.
Look, we'll schedule it, I guess, as soon as she wants it.
So this is in regard to Rep-elect Grijalva. You heard his statement. She said, we'll schedule it whenever she wants. She's like, let's go. I'm ready to be sworn in. Let's do it right now.
She needs to get to work. She needs to stop doing TikTok videos and serve her constituents.
She can't get to work, Mike, because she's not sworn in. You were brought in, Mr. Logic, because you had requested. That's why I brought you up.
We are not in legislative session.
You don't have to be in legislative session because you swore in 2 Republican elected officials during what's referred to as pro forma. You can do it at any point you want, Mike.
I'm doing the exact same thing. This has zero to do with Epstein.
If it has zero to do with Epstein, then it's just a coincidence that she would be the 218 signature on the discharge petition? Okay. Just want to make sure I got that straight. I don't think I've done my daily yet. I'm going to add Mike Johnson, my bitch, to the list. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Mike Johnson, Pete Hegseth. I'm Steve, Facts, Monday through Friday, live right here, 8 a.m. till noon Eastern time. Fuck you. Thanks. Glad we had this talk. Okay, a few more other things I wanted to kind of cover off on. This again is Rand Paul. And the reason I'm kind of playing Rand Paul a little bit is because Rand Paul would consider himself a libertarian. Yes, he's voted many times with Donald Trump, but he's also been a thorn in the side of the administration because he sees things in the federal government that he doesn't like, and he calls it out. So we played some sound a couple weeks ago from Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is one of the co-authors of the discharge petition along with Ro Khanna. Thomas Massie is one of 4 Republicans that have signed it, himself, MTG, Boebert, and Nancy Mace, right? Those 4. Thomas Massie also said, listen, I know a lot of my Republican colleagues don't want to be defending a PDF file, but they're afraid of the Trump machine. Okay? So this is Rand Paul addressing that as it relates to the Senate.
Things about the inner workings of Congress is you rarely can persuade anybody to do something they're not inclined to do. If I were to recite what I just recited to you, which is basically a narrative of hypocrisy, I don't think that makes me any friends necessarily, and I don't think I'm going to persuade anybody. They have to be persuaded on their own. Here's a good example. There are probably 8 farm states. Maybe there are 10 farm states. That means there's 20 senators who have always believed in free trade, and they're all grumbling, and they're all like, China's not buying any of our, soybean this year. The tariff war with China has led to this, and they don't have the guts because it's their president And frankly, they're afraid. They're afraid that he will do to them what he's trying to do to me. That's too bad, because it'd be a little easier on me if I weren't the only target, if there were other people willing to stand up and oppose bad policy.
I mean, bad policy is bad policy. 20 senators that represent the hub of our agriculture industry in the state, and they won't stand up for their own farmers. They won't stand. They literally will not stand up for their own constituents. They won't. They're so afraid of losing power. That's what this comes down to. The levels of corruption just drive me fucking crazy. Okay, I've got a little bit more sound I want to play for you here. I think I do. I've not played it already. This is you're gonna hear from Richard Spencer now. I want to play this because the theme runs through everything that we're discussing now. Richard Spencer meeting with I forget the gentleman's name that he's meeting with, Roland Martin, I think. But I want you to hear this. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. But this is part of what we're up against every single day.
Egyptians are not African. I'm sorry.
Do you know where Egypt is?
Yes, it's in North Africa.
Okay, stop. You stop right there. You just said that you said the Egyptians are not African.
Are white South Africans African?
Wait. Yes, they are African. See, okay, to be African means you come from the continent of Africa. So if you come from the continent of Africa, that's who you are. So that means you're an African. So you do know. Do you also deny science that man originated from Africa, or do you say that's false science?
What are you talking about? I mean, what are you referring to?
I'm talking
science.
Archaeology. I'm talking biology. I'm talking science. In terms of the where did man originate? White scientists.
Egypt was an amazing civilization. It was not created by black Africans. I'm sorry.
It wasn't. Who created it?
People who are white.
How are people?
You can look actually look at art, and they differentiate between races.
I got to ask you a question. How do you
from ancient Egyptian art?
You do know those were black people. You do know.
They weren't.
You do know from science, you can't get black from white. You can get white from black. You do know when it comes to evolution.
What? I see what you're saying.
Do you never studied science?
I see what you're. Yes, I have.
No, so I'm
not a scientist.
But man originated in Africa. Yes or no?
That is a consensus. Yes.
Okay. So if man originated in Africa, which means that they were Africans, then all of a sudden, when you talk about the amazing works of the Egyptians, they were people of color. I know that's a little rough for you to handle, but I know you want to hold on to that, somehow thinking whites built the pyramids. But I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, we did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because first of all, they were building things in Egypt while white Europeans were still in caves. That's a fact.
That's
a fact. Okay.
Sure.
Richard Spencer. Obviously, a self-professed white Christian nationalist being grilled by Roland Martin. That interview's from a while back, but I play that because to me, a lot of this is at the center of everything that we're seeing now, because the white Christian nationalist movement that has infiltrated our government, state houses, school boards across the board. People feel the same way that he feels. The fact that Egypt is literally a country in the continent of Africa. And because people like Richard Spencer believe that the world could not have been built without YT people, you get to double down on your racism. And again, I play that for you because this is what we see every day. Not as blatant as that, although in many cases, yes. But the underlying tone is always there. And case in point, tens of millions of Americans will ignore the daily treason, corruption, crimes, hateful rhetoric, sexual assault allegations, civil liability, convictions, so to speak, of a white man, but yet they'll accept all that shit, but they'll lose their fucking mind over a health care plan introduced by a black man. Or that Kamala Harris should not have won the presidency because of her laugh. Or Ketanji Brown Jackson is a DEI hire. Compare those three names to what represents our country now. People like Pete Hegseth. People like Pam Bondi. People like Kristi Noem. They can do no wrong as they are getting grilled, as they are getting called out for their corruption every fucking day. But God forbid AOC makes a stand for American health care. Or Kamala Harris speaks to the middle class, or because Kamala Harris laughed. Yeah. So that current is always right below the surface, more and more above the surface these days. It gets worse, though, because when you have people that are, gaining power, I guess you can say, or gaining, this person's name is Lydia Taylor Davis. And I'm going to play this sound, and it's incredibly disturbing, especially when it's coming from a woman, but I'm going to play it. This has to do with AB. And this gentleman is at a rally. This is at the University of West Georgia. And, well, here you go. Here's his question, and it should not be that difficult to answer. But here you go.
Do you want to force rape victims to give birth to their rapist babies? I want an yes or no answer.
The question itself is phrased poorly because I'm not forcing, I want to allow. Because the only
I'm not forcing, I want to allow. Okay.
Forcing that's going on in the abortion issue is abortion itself is a forced birth, which I addressed.
Abortion is a forced birth?
Earlier. So yes, I do think that women should be required to allow the baby to live and be brought to birth, but I'm not forcing anything to happen. I'm just wanting to allow that to happen. There's no forcing involved. And so I think that the only forcing involved is the abortion industry that's forcing a baby to be killed. Does that make sense? But yes, I absolutely believe that no woman should be allowed to kill her baby under any circumstance, that we can offer better resources for women. But I appreciate you trying to make me sound bad.
I appreciate you trying to make me sound bad. Trust me, he didn't do a damn thing to make you sound bad. So, what? Here it is again. I'll just play it again for you, and I'll just let it play. Wow.
Do you want to force rape victims to give birth to their rapist babies? I want an yes or no answer.
The question itself is phrased poorly because I'm not forcing, I want to allow. Because the only forcing that's going on in the abortion issue is abortion itself is a forced birth, which I addressed earlier. So yes, I do think that women should be required to allow the baby to live and be brought to birth, but I'm not forcing anything to happen. I'm just wanting to allow that to happen. There's no forcing involved. And so I think that the only forcing involved is the abortion industry that's forcing a baby to be killed. Does that make sense? But yes, I absolutely believe that no woman should be allowed to kill her baby under any circumstance, that we can offer better resources for women. But I appreciate you trying to make me sound bad.
Her name is Lydia Taylor Davis, and she represents a group called Students for Life. I don't even know what to say about that. These are the people that are in school boards. These are the people who are running for office, in many cases unopposed. These are the people who are setting policy. These are the same people that have connections with these young Republicans, right? Her name was Lydia Taylor Davis. The same people that are part of these group chats, making their opinions known. The same people that don't believe that women should have the right to vote. that same group of people, the Moms of Liberty group, that same group of people, again, her no matter what, the 1 in 3 women that are victims of sexual assault, raped, whatever that might be, a woman is telling you that your rapist has more rights to your body than you do. Just think about that for a second. The pro-life crowd thinks that a rapist has more rights to your body than you do. And the pro-life Christians celebrate it. Am I wrong about that? You heard what she said. Under no conditions should a woman be able to exercise her rights to her own body. Because at that point, apparently, as soon as you become pregnant, you are an incubator. You are just a breeding factory. That's it. Doesn't matter. So what ends up happening with language like that is, as they're talking about national abortion bans, we've heard it. We've heard Clarence Thomas talk about wanting to get rid of same-sex marriage equality. You start talking about abortion bans nationwide. You know what's going to happen? Yeah. There's going to be more examples of sexual assault and rape. Abso-fucking-lutely. So, the fairer sex. Are you angry yet? Are you angry enough to do something? Are you angry enough to make sure that you're getting involved? Are you angry enough to get other people to the poll with you? Are you angry enough to do more in your community? Are you angry enough to stop being apathetic when it comes to democracies? Are you angry enough to attend the next rally, and then the next rally, and then the next rally? Are you angry enough to use the 5 Calls app? Are you angry enough to write letters to your members of Congress? Are you angry enough to do even more than that? Are you angry enough to run for office? Are you angry enough to run for school board? Are you? Are you angry enough to do all those things? I hope so. I hope you're angry enough, because you need to be. Mr. Logic, we try that again?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that before. I was on a call.
Sorry, what's on your mind?
Nothing. You called me up. I know it was just random, but I'm a friendly, so
No, you had requested. I'm not sure if you had done that by accident.
Must have been talking there. I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, but no, I'm a friendly. I'm a regular on most of the live stream TikTok, so I don't really have an opposing viewpoint, more of a supporting viewpoint. So,
okay.
I will just add as a person who leans left. I'm more of a moderate Democrat. I'm not a full-on leftist Democrat. I'm a reformed Republican. I worked on the McCain campaign back in 2008 and then voted for Obama in 2012 because, that's just a logical place that my mind went. So what really ticks me off about the Democrat Party is our messaging. We have the worst messaging. And we put too much money in. We took too much money and effort into optics, which is the opposite of what the conservatives do. They put no money or effort into optics and put it all into messaging. So everything that you see going wrong, like somebody just put in the comments, hey, 500,000 kids are missing from the border because of blank Democrats. I'm not saying we should get to that messaging, but Democrats as a whole, we need to really work on our messaging. Yeah.
I would challenge your sentiment a little bit to say that the Republicans don't focus on optics. They do. They use marginalized communities as the optics. So in fact, I think they are full on into optics. They'll use edited footage. They'll use ICE rounding up brown people, and they'll use that as fuel and motivation for their base. So I certainly do think that they spend a lot of money on optics. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't agree with their optics. That's eventually what drove me away. Was just that looks terrible. Yeah. This just looks very terrible. And I'm very much an aesthetic and style and substance kind of person. So, that's why I went far left. That and hey, got more education and started listening and started talking, listening especially. So
what's you said far left. What is far left to you? What does that mean to you? When I hear people say that, I'm just curious what that means.
Yeah, and again, I hate titles, so I'm just trying to use something that makes sense to everybody listening. But you can tell from the Southern accent, I'm from the South. I'm from the Bible Belt, so I have a lot of traditional barnacles on my ship that I've been trying to scrape away over the years. But I'm not anti-gun ownership, anti-2A. I'm not I'm agnostic when it comes to religion, so I don't have a religious background. I'm a former military veteran, former Marine Corps veteran, and served for a while in the 90s. And so when I hear some of the things that are going on with like the DOD, and I will call it the DOD, not the Department of War. I hear some of the things that Hegseth says. I get where he's trying to get us from a overall unified strength thing. I think again, his messaging, his optics, and his just absolute absence of logic and his absurdity to thump his chest is the wrong way to get there. You don't get there loudly, you get there quietly. And that's what I disagree with from that. But I still do believe that, we do have to be, United States.
I want to go back to the question I asked you. You said you went far left. So can you give me an example of something that would be far left that you believe? Like, I don't know what that is.
Like something far left, I would believe.
You said it. I'm only using your words.
Oh no,
you called yourself.
No, let's go. Let's go there. You're right. Let's go down my own path. Something that's far left that I believe every church should be taxed federally and at the state level as well. I believe every church and every religion should be taxed.
You think that's far left? You think it's far left?
If I was to go in the town square where I lived, I would be considered a radical Marxist leftist Democrat. For me, it's a financial thing.
Okay.
Another thing that's far
left. We should
be
taxing churches. Okay.
Another thing in that same token, when I hear things like the war on Christmas or the war on religion or the war on Christianity, my challenge to any time I hear someone say that is get in your car, go from one end of your county to the other. Tell me how many churches or signs for churches that you pass and how many signs for mosques, temples or anything else that you pass in that same county. Here in the South, that's an easy challenge. You're going to pass at least 20 churches on every county or highway. So those are some things where I think, that our the right side of our party, especially Mike Johnson, has so become ideologically lost in religion that it is filtering out anything good that could come from their party and benefit all of us in the middle.
Okay, so I would not. Maybe somebody who was on the right might consider those things far left, but you're talking things that are very centrist, to be honest. So that wouldn't be wouldn't be far left. Well, right, but let me give you an example. Like, do you believe that, for example, do you believe that we should overfund public education?
Overfund?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I guess.
So let me give you the scenario.
Overfund. I guess I'd have to understand the concept of overfunding.
Okay, let me give you an example.
You mean on par with DOD?
Well, personally, if I had to choose between which agency should have a bigger budget, then I would certainly put the Department of Education over the Department of Defense. No doubt about it. Do you believe that?
Okay. I think they should be comparable. I think they should absolutely be comparable.
Okay, well, again, so that would be more centrist, what you're saying. I would say, since we have the largest military budget in the world tenfold, I think the next 20 countries combined are less than we have, and like 18 of those are our allies. So why would we need to have the size of the Department of Defense we have, and yet we're cutting public education? So that would be an example of something that would be progressive, not far left, but progressive. Do you believe that we should have universal health care? Do you think? Let me ask you in a different way. Do you think healthcare is a human right?
I absolutely do. And you're talking to somebody who gets 99% of his health care from the VA free of charge. It should absolutely be like that for every American, every citizen, every person living here, not even just citizens. I wouldn't limit it to there. If your own soul, and you're here and you're not committing crimes, you should get it.
Agreed. Do you believe that we should approach a realistic approach to addressing firearm violence? So, for example, universal background checks. And when I say that, what I mean is that in every state, every single person who wants to purchase a firearm has to go through the same rigor. That would address gun show loopholes, private sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Would you support that?
Absolutely. I think it should be as as tough as getting a driver's license. You should try to do everything you can to make all drivers equal as well as all gun owners equal.
Okay. Do you think that we should, at the state level, for state colleges and universities, do you think tuition should be free?
Yes. I paid for 3 college degrees, by the way.
Okay, great. So I've got an advanced degree myself. So I think
not all my degrees. They're not all mine. They're not all mine. That's not what politicians are seeing. I actually don't have a degree. I paid for 3 degrees because I have 3 people in my life that I paid for. So they never factor that angle in.
Okay, so then those are progressive sentiments. So I wouldn't say, because we have to be careful with rhetoric like the far left, because that's what the MAGA machine wants people to believe. Like they think Antifa is far radical leftists, right? I
agree, and Antifa's not a thing.
It's not. From my perspective, there is no such thing as the radical left, because what we just went through are what we're accused of being radical, because we want health care, because we want court reform, because we want to consider taxing the churches, because we want to reduce the size of our federal defense budget and then retroactively and or reappropriate it to the Department of Education. Those things get considered radical. So I would just be careful when you identify yourself as saying you're on the far left, because that's got connotations to it by design. Instead, call yourself a progressive, because that's not radical in any way, what you just discussed. So you're a progressive.
I would absolutely
believe in moving
agree.
society forward.
That is absolutely wonderful feedback, and I would absolutely agree with you. Thank you.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you jumping in today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Sorry for the typing earlier. Got to go back to work.
No sweat. No sweat. Have a good day. See you later.
Later.
All right. So I got to wrap. But that's a good exercise, right? To ask people these questions, because we're starting to see more and more people try to find their home politically. And that's why I'm going to be going out on the road. We're trying to put those things together. So hashtag do something tour. You're going to start to see that around a little bit more. We're going to, because those are the conversations that I want to be able to have, right? How do we get through the transition or leaving the church or leaving the cult or leaving the Republican Party, right? All those kinds of things. Those are the conversations that we're desperate to have, that I'm desperate to have. So if somebody's interested in having those conversations, then that would be me. So I'm going to wrap there. Mods, who are we going to raid today, friends? Who's live that we can go visit? 2 things to think about as we go forward through this week. We know that the House is supposed to come back to session. I know Mike Johnson spoke today. I did not get confirmation. Reconstruction, thank you. I did not get confirmation as to whether or not the plan is to open the government tomorrow. As far as I know, right, that is the plan. Olive Ashley. We're going to go, let's go raid Laney today, friends. Defenestrans. Let's go raid Defenestrans. Good conversation today, friends. It is our job here as we navigate through this to kind of keep you informed. We don't argue. We want to educate. So we will we'll do that as best we possibly can. But thank you all for being here. Yes, go raid Laney, go raid Defenestrans. Mods, you guys are the best in the business. Chat, you guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. As a reminder, there are items in the merch store. If you haven't picked them up, we are crowdfunded. You want to support the channel, best way to do that is through the various appetizers at Factsstillmatter. Please consider joining our Discord. I love you all. I will see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock